Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke, so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Yes, audio's on. Okay, good. I don't know. It's been a little while. Might be a little bit rusty on how all of this works. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. So far, let me know how the audio is because I turned an extra knob. Because I know some people think I still sound quiet, so I turned an extra knob. So let me know if my volume is okay. So far in the sandbox, we have Mudbuds, the Anti-Corporatist, Monope, me, Soul Life, Kelly Box, Meekly, BKK. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you out. I know it's been a little while, and I didn't really want to come on tonight because I wanted to focus on that other thing that I'm working on. But the news in Canada has just kind of gone wild, like when Canadians go wild. So, you know, I used to worry that there wouldn't be enough Canadian news to cover. But then, I started paying more attention to Canadian news, and there's a lot to cover in Canadian news. Like a lot. Oh, so that's why I've been focusing more and more when I do my streams to focus just on Canadian stories because there's so much that needs to be covered. And, you have the other great channels like um, Rational National and the Serfs and Humanist Report and all them, of course, Majority Report, and they cover all the American important stories. So I don't need to. I don't. Uh, this is my niche and it's what I'm passionate about. So this is why I do it. So, yeah. Oh, Canada. We got some stuff going on here. Also, check out my subscriptions on my YouTube channel. I hit the evil number, so evil left of the box has now been unlocked. Yes, I'm at 6,660-ish subscribers. Oh, let's hope to add a digit to that soon. And yeah, I also want to send out a huge thank you to the person who got me a ring light, a new ring light, and a toaster oven for my wish list. Yes, this ring light, I had the other one and it had been repaired so many times because Abernathy, just that wire to him is crack. And I sprayed it, I tried to do all these things to make sure that he wouldn't chew on the wire. But he was like a little ninja. Cats are very quiet when they want to be. And he would just come in and before I even knew it, chomp right through it. So I got a new one. I've like doubled, tripled, soaked it, sprayed it in the anti-chew stuff. But I also have to get in the habit of when I'm done a live stream to curl up the cord and put it up. It's just ADHD. It's really hard to remember little things like that. But the nice thing about this ring light as well is it comes on its own stand. And it's a nice little narrow stand, which means I no longer had to have the extra tripod on my wish list. So in a way, this person got me 3 things because then I no longer needed that. So that's one less thing on my wish list. And the toaster oven is just great because I eat in such small proportions, and turning on my oven every time I have to cook food just it feels ridiculous for the amount of food that it's cooking. So it'll save me money with hydro and stuff too. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, I want to talk about the book. That's all I want. That I have not been this hyper focused on anything this long, this hard, and I don't even know when else. Like, it's all I want to do from the moment I'm awake to the moment I go to sleep. Like, I have to force myself away from the computer, and you have no idea how much is bugging me right now to not be at it. But I'm doing this because I love you guys. And because I started reading the book over again because it had been a while since I had read my book. And because I was waiting for like a year with that one publisher. But then I thought, you know what? There's a couple of little tiny changes I want to make. Part of it is I started writing this book like 9 years ago. Like, granted, there was a few year gap in there where I didn't even look at it or touch it. And so some things just needed to be updated. But then there's like these silly little grammar things, like where is it a comma or a period in dialogue, and how do you separate dialogue, and how do you for sure indicate who's talking and stuff. And so I started reading it from the beginning, and then I realized that I needed more than just that edit because I was really reading it through fresh eyes. And then I got through all of it again. Now I'm started over because now I'm doing kind of like a speed read to see how it flows, and I'm finding that I'm still making slight little changes because part of my issue with writing is my style. I write my scripts for my videos. If anyone were to try to read my script, they would fail miserably because a lot of it relies on how I do my inflections, which are a little bit, it can be difficult to discern from just plain writing. I have to make sure not to do that in the book. Like, the book has to be easy read. It can't just be like, I know how it's supposed to sound, but nobody else does. So I have to be careful with that. But just to give you an idea of like how much work this book is, it's in a Word document. Regular spacing, regular font, regular margins, no generous, paragraph spacing, none of that, no pictures. It's 175 pages. Okay. It's like over 98,000 words. 98,000 words. It's a novel. It is a novel. But it's so hard for me to explain, but I know this book is good. In the same way I know my art is good. Like, it isn't just an okay book. It's like really good. Which it doesn't mean it's going to be successful, of course, because look at my art. My art is really good. I still haven't had a customer other than my mom. So just because it's going to be really good doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be successful. I'm hoping that will break into the market. And, should the book become wildly successful, or if this channel becomes wildly successful, then I think I'll feel a little bit safer maybe announcing on here what the book is. But until I feel a little bit more comfortable with it, again, it's one of the things like, when the reveal happens, you'll understand why I wanted to kind of keep it separate from my online personality and my real name. Oh, but yeah, it's all I want to do. It hurts my eyeballs. I barely eat, because that's all I want to focus on. But I need to get it done. Like I said, I first started writing it 9 years ago. But the concept for it was still in my head even before then. I need to get this done. That's why after this, again, there won't be regular live streams. However, the letter hack will be joining me on Tuesday evening. Yeah, he'll be coming on my show. I want just more like a chill, relax type thing. Other than that, unless a whole bunch of more Canadian news spontaneously combusts, I don't know. I might have to do another live stream because it just blew my mind. Some of the stories that are in the news, and like literally right before I hit live, there was like, oh, I need to include this in the story because some of it is kind of still unfolding and breaking now. It is wild. So I should probably get to it. First, I'm just going to quickly check the sandbox. Welcome, everyone. Wow. Got a whole bunch of people in the sandbox. BKK, I thought you weren't working job 2 for a while. I think you're talking about me saying that I was taking a break. Or Soul Life is still at job 2. Okay. Okay, so didn't think Soul Life would be working at job 2 for a while. Okay. Yeah, gotta work. I need to I need to get some income in somehow soon. Hopefully my YouTube channel will pick up, even though I'm not going to be doing as many live streams over the next little while. Uh, things are getting tight financially, you know. Got my taxes done, yay! I don't owe anything, yay! I'm also not getting anything back. Uh, So life here in the US, if you say you don't want innocent Palestinians hurt, the news calls you anti-Semitic, terror supporter, and then cops beat and arrest you. Yeah, I haven't seen too much in the news about it here. Not that different, other than I don't think they've become as violent, the protests. I do know that the cops tend to crack down on the pro-Palestinian protests, and we'll touch a little bit on it with one of the other stories on how biased law enforcement is when it comes to different sorts of protests. UV Power. Hey Sandy, hope you're well. Would you consider yourself a communist, socialist, or social democrat? I just kind of say I'm a social commie because it's the whole I don't fit into a label thing. Like I haven't done any of the reading on the theory and whatnot. Um, like from what I hear from communists and what they want sounds fine. What I hear from socialists and what they want sounds fine. Probably a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but you know, there's something about being put into a box that I'm not too keen on, hence I'm left of the box. So I'm just like of the left, of the far left, I guess you could say, but I jokingly will refer to myself as a social commie. Uh, let's see. Okay, then why don't we actually get to the news? So I get to do this. Where is it? Where is it? There it is.
Today in Canadian news.
Yes, today in Canada news. I wanted to go over a little bit more of the budget. So people who were tuned into my last live stream, Mark, Twitter peep of mine, who has been on my live stream before, came on because the Canadian federal budget had just come out. And one of the biggest disappointing things in it was what they did with the Disability Benefit Act. Because they've been promising and promising and promising that there would be a disability benefit that would help people with disabilities, get them out of poverty, all this sort of stuff. Because, you know, think way back when COVID started, CERB, the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit, came out. $2,000 a month for Canadians. Unless you have a disability, then you didn't get that. And most people who rely on disability payments, we rely on about half of that, which is not good. And so we are forced to live in dire, dire poverty. So this disability benefit was supposed to help alleviate that. So the budget came out, and this was included in it. They didn't listen. They did not listen to anyone who talked to them, who told them what we need. So what they ended up doing was $200 extra a month. for people living with disabilities if you qualify for the disability tax benefit, which is less than half of the people who need to rely on disability payments. Very disappointing for a lot of people. As I said, it was hard for me to be disappointed when I never... This is kind of what I expected would happen. That it would just be another slap in the face. This isn't going to help a single person get out of poverty who lives with disabilities. Nobody on the rates that we currently have, an extra $200 will still keep you in dire poverty. That's how bad it is. And meanwhile, so we get, like here in Ontario, I think they've just increased it to $1,400 a month. You know, keep in mind that's rent for most people. When you have the MPs and MPPs, so members of parliament, members of provincial parliament, they get benefits for their job, which include about $1,000 more than what we get per month on housing allowance alone. So $2,300 a month for housing allowance, let alone their actual salary and other benefits and all that sort of stuff they get. They get $2,300 a month just for housing. And meanwhile, people with disabilities in Ontario are expected to get by on $1,400 a month. That's if you get the maximum amount. Absolutely ridiculous. So there was just a few follow-up things that I wanted to get to with that. So liberals are smug. They're just smug. There's like a lot of really cursy words that I want to say right now when I talk about the smugness of liberals and how much I despise how they're patting themselves on the back for this, because they are, thinking they've done this great thing. So here's this one saying, you know, budget 2024 includes the Canada Disability Benefit as one of the largest line items at $6.1 billion, which will provide support to individuals living with disabilities. We need to do more, and PTs need to step up to increase. So they're talking about provinces and territories, and not claw back their assistant programs. And if we, oh, that's odd. That's a politician. Accounts who only follow or are mentioned can reply to this. Gee, I wonder why. And yeah, blocking replies because they know people aren't happy about this $200 a month. It's not a benefit, it's an insult, and it really is. And we'll get a little bit more into why. So we have here Michael J. Prince, and he tweeted out, effective immediately, I've resigned from ministers Kamala, I'm not sure how to say her last name, Kira, Disability Advisory Group. I'm deeply disappointed in budget 2024 provided for the Canada Disability Benefit. Read my full letter here. So he is a professor at social policy at UVIC, so probably that's the University of Victoria, I would imagine. Political scientist, disability advocate, media pundit, award-winning author, all that sort of stuff. So he was on the advisory group to help design this disability benefit. So he resigned because of how inefficient this benefit is. So let's just say I'm writing to give my formal notice of my resignation to the Minister's Disability Advisory Group effective immediately. My decision is based on the government's design choices for the Canada Disability Benefit announced in this week's budget. The budget fails to heed the long-declared recommendations by national disability organizations and other groups for a properly funded benefit, one that recognizes additional cost of living in people with disabilities. So on and so forth. The government estimates that more than 600,000 low-income persons with disabilities will see an increase to their financial well-being. This number falls well short of the estimated 1.2 million persons with disabilities across Canada living with poverty. In contrast to the previous statement about the intended effect of the Canada Disability Benefit, there is no mention here of having significant poverty reduction effects. And the thing is again, the $200 doesn't actually get people out of poverty. That's how dire poverty people with disabilities is in, that the extra $200, it gets you an extra trip to the grocery store and maybe pays down part of a bill. Skip to the end of it. Out of sync with public opinion and community needs this budget announced. Failures talking. Okay. So basically, I conclude that my voice is no longer making a difference on this advisory group, so I resign. And we'll get a little bit more into some of the stuff that he has said on it. So Mike Morris, he's a Green MP, and he's a good MP. I've done plenty of stories on him, and I'm hoping to try to get him back on my show. He's been on my show. I want him back on his show. And he has been a very, very strong advocate for people living with disabilities. And he has been fighting this, and he's been very vocal on it. And so he has another statement. There's something else I was just about to say. Oh, right. So the Green Party can be hit and miss with the people who are in it. And as I've mentioned on my channel way back when I was first covering him running for office, is he didn't win because he's a Green Party member. He won because people like him. He did the work. You know, it was the second time he attempted that he actually got a seat, but he did the work. He put the effort in. He got the connections with the community. And so he's one of the rare politicians that was elected in because people like him. Most politicians are elected in because of their party. So that's just an indication of the type of person he is and how strong of an advocate he is. Oh, I haven't plugged in my headphones yet. Just a second. Oh. I knew I was forgetting something. I'm a little rusty at this. Yes, I knew I was rusty at this whole live streaming thing. Take a little bit of a break and you forget half the things you're supposed to do. Okay, so we have this statement from Mike Morris, $35 billion for the TMX pipeline, $18 billion in handouts for big oil last year alone. Yet in budget 2024, they didn't step up to keep their promise to the disability community. It's past time to stop making excuses and do right by people with disabilities. I'll keep pushing.
You know, we've had this conversation dozens of times in this house over the last 3 years. I've heard time and again about a need for time for the regulations, negotiations with provinces and territories, nothing without us, we need to do more. The difference now is that with this budget, their cards are on the table. There was a dollar amount in that budget, and that dollar amount was $200 a month. This government set the expectation that this benefit was meant to lift people out of poverty. And they find money for the Trans Mountain Pipeline. They find $35 billion for that. They send $18 billion to oil and gas companies that are already making tens of billions in record-breaking profits. But when it came time to step up and demonstrate that there was well-placed trust from the disability community, they were let down. And so my question to the Parliamentary Secretary is she and others going to put pressure on this government to expand what was in the budget and do better?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The details announced in the budget left
$200 a month.
advocates
The reason for that, and I think
including
the
my
low
next
number of
guest, Michael Prince,
600,000,
quit the
which would be a
Minister's
maximum.
Disability.
Sorry. I don't know why that just happened, but like a whole bunch of tabs just started talking all at once without me doing anything. So we'll get back to this. That was weird.
Nephew, who has severe
So I need to
disabilities,
skip
Speaker,
back
and I
a bit.
really appreciate the
Budget and do better.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I really appreciate the advocacy of the member. As I've said, I myself have a nephew who has severe disabilities, and right now.
Again, the smugness of liberals is just basically, she just did the whole, well, I know someone who's in that group, you know, I have a friend, I have a family member that's in that group. Like the person saying, oh, well, I have a Jewish friend, or I have a black friend. Oh, I have a nephew with a disability, so I can speak on behalf of them.
Now, in his first 5 years of life is when he needs the most support to be able to grow and to live a functioning life. I completely understand the need to ensure that the disability community has that support that they need so that they can continue to flourish and to thrive in a community that is barrier-free.
The $200 does not accomplish that.
And Mr. Speaker, during these past 8 years, we have invested unprecedented amounts of money to further the inclusion and the financial stability of persons with disabilities.
A lot of that money has actually gone to corporations to try to make the corporations more friendly to certain people with certain disabilities, you know, to have like get back to work job programs.
This Canada Disability Benefit represents the largest single item in Budget 2024 of over $6 billion. This is not insignificant, Mr. Speaker, and this is the first time in Canada that there will be a federal benefit designed to specifically meet the needs of people with disabilities. And
it does not meet the needs of people with disabilities.
like all progressive programs that we've delivered, they are built to be enhanced and to be expanded. And I look forward to working with the member to ensure that.
And while we're waiting for this to be expanded and have to fight tooth and nail to get that done, there are people who are suffering and won't make it. Quite literally, that's how bad the poverty is. Like that's the thing, like we don't have time to wait for them to slowly get it up to a livable rate. So the tabs that started speaking on their own, so Michael J. Prince. So again, he's the person that sent in this resignation letter because he was working on the Disability Advisory Board. And he has a couple things. So that the federal government is not innocent in this income insecurity of people with disabilities, a quick history. So she was just, the minister here was just saying, oh, this is the largest investment with people with disabilities. It's the first one, blah, blah, blah. Not really. Not really.
The details announced in the budget left many advocates disappointed, including my next guest. Michael Prince quit the minister's Disability Advisory Group after the budget was tabled, saying he felt his voice wasn't being heard. And Michael Prince joins me now. Michael Prince, thank you for taking the time. You were listening in on most of that interview, I think. I wonder what your takeaway is from what the minister had to say in terms of explaining how she sees this program.
Thank you, David. Well, first of all, this is not actually the first statutory program of a federal government delivering income support to people with disabilities. We can go back to just after World War I with veterans benefits for disabled veterans. In the 1930s, the federal government started to provide income support to Canadians who were blind. And in the 1950s, we had the Disabled Persons Act that was enacted. So there is a long history of federal government leadership on providing income support to different groups of people with disabilities. The other thing the minister said about, the provinces need to step up. Well, again, just a quick little history. In 1996, a previous Liberal government terminated what was called the Canada Assistance Plan. David, you might remember this is a program where the federal government cost shared 50-50 with the provinces in funding provincial social assistance. And in most provinces, the single largest group on provincial social assistance are people with disabilities. So the government of Canada actually stepped away from funding provincial welfare programs for disabled Canadians almost 30 years ago. So the idea that the provinces have been chronically underfunding, that might be the case, but the federal government is not totally innocent in that claim. And so I think it's a bit of a distraction to lay the blame all on the provinces. There has been a historic role by the government of Canada for many, many decades for a variety of groups with disabilities. What groups were looking for with the new Canada Disability Benefit was a return by the federal government to a more meaningful, robust leadership role in providing income support to people clearly in deep poverty. So, as you said, this was greeted with tremendous widespread disappointment and dejection by disability groups last Tuesday.
Yeah, and a note that I mentioned when I was talking about this when it first got announced and Mark was on my show, is mentioning that a lot of the provinces actually held back increasing rates to people with disability because they were waiting for this federal disability rollout so that then they wouldn't have to spend more money on, making sure that people have enough necessities, basic needs to live. They wanted to pass it off to the federal government. And now that the federal government's plan is completely underwhelming, again, that's years of not keeping up with inflation. Like, even when they increase it, it's rarely ever enough to cover inflation. In fact, I don't recall the last time it is. Because sure, they might increase the rate a certain amount, but my rent will go up, and usually gobble that increase up. So he had a little bit more to say. So relying on the disability tax credit to determine eligibility for Canada disability benefit will result in disturbing segmentation of the included and excluded among low-income people with disabilities. So this is what I was saying before, that you have to qualify for the Canada disability tax benefit. And one of the things you need for that is a family doctor. And if you don't have that, then it's very hard for you to apply for it. And even if you apply for it, doesn't mean that you're going to get it. So, like I said, like he said, like I've said, it's less than half of people who rely on disability that actually qualify for this benefit. So it's less than half of people who live with dire poverty that are going to get just the extra $200 a month.
And as you say, $200 a month. The reason for that, and I think the low number of 600,000, which would be a maximum number under, I think, current projections, is that relying on the disability tax credit, which again has real limitations, really provides benefits through the tax system to people with reportable income for taxation purposes. So again, for low-income Canadians with disabilities, this leaves out hundreds of thousands of adults with disabilities across the country. So that's kind of, they've chosen an instrument, the DTC, the disability tax credit, that by itself has this ceiling. So it's really leaving at least 50% of those clearly in poverty out. So this is a very kind of disturbing segmentation and picking of the most not necessarily the poorest, because some of those who are poor were not going to be eligible at all under the DTC. So this isn't like doing the most needy, David. This will be those who can actually qualify under a rather stringent eligibility criteria and medical documentation to get eligibility. So
yeah, again, there were so many people waiting on this disability benefit, hoping that it would be the saving grace, the thing that they needed to just help get by every month. And then for the government to come out with this was just devastating. So the Tory, the left, the Canadian Radical said the NDP proposed $2,200 a month benefit and settled for $2,000 less in exchange for propping up a genocidal party in confidence votes. Shake my head. And so, yeah, it's part of Jagmeet Singh's plan to prop up the Liberals, to keep them in power so that there's not an election called. And part of it was, well, he wanted $2,200 a month for people living with disabilities, and that would have actually helped get people out of dire poverty. It would literally help save lives. It would help save the quality of life of people, for the people who are just living in complete destitute and misery. But Jagmeet Singh has just been not taking advantage. He's not been playing the cards well. He's not been playing the political game well. To be in the position that he's in, to prop up the Liberals and fall so flat. At the same time, I don't exactly want them not to prop up the Liberals right now because the alternative is Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. And we're going to get a little bit more into him, but he's just so much worse in so many other ways. So really, this is just me again saying I'm just severely disappointed in Jagmeet Singh. I had a lot of hope for him when he first got elected as leader of the NDP, and he has just completely fell flat on that. Oh, so that's it on that segment. Still have lots more to go over, so much to go over. Let's check the sandbox, shall we? I like being able to check the sandbox in between segments to help kind of break it up, you know? It's a nice little routine I'm getting into. Oh, so let's see. We've had so many more people jump in. Thank you. Seeing MIDI doctors, my dogs are goth. My goth are dogs. My dogs are goth. Looney Tunes 9000 and more. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. A lot of people saying blame Twitter, blame Musk for all of a sudden all the tabs just starting to play. That was weird. I haven't had that happen before. Not really seeing any Grand Theft Autobot, the Canada Assistant negotiation tactic, or can't. Yeah, sounds about right. Yes, please like and share this stream if you can. I'm not one of those people who qualify for the extra 200 a month, and I could really use it right about now. I haven't had any kind of boost in my income since Rebel HQ, and the little nuggets of money that I had from that are, yeah. Any help would be greatly appreciated at this point. UV power, every political party in the world has become more right-wing over time. Not in South America. There's been some changes there with some of the leaders. There is pushback, but they have been able to get some more progressive leadership in there. Ireland. There's pockets around the world of people who are becoming more progressive. Like if you even look at it, like South Africa, they've become more leftist after apartheid. It all depends on where you go. It depends on what kind of metrics you're looking at. But there has absolutely been a wave of this right-wing fascist coalition working together to make the world less safe for a lot of people. A lot of people. And we need more cross-border solidarity with leftists. You know, we need more leftists working around the world to prop up, you know, progressive governments and to work together and have spokespeople travel all over to give talks and stuff. We need a mirror dimension Steve Bannon. I don't know who that would be. Oh, So Live, thank you so much for the $5. I really appreciate it. With the cute little fox there. Thank you. My dogs are goth. To everyone in struggle, disabilities are hard enough. Government adding insult to injury. They're so scared that someone somewhere will get it that doesn't need it. They hurt everyone involved. Yeah. Yeah, so many people, it's like, oh, all those people who are just living off the system and no, we need to cut back. And it's like, there are people who will take advantage of every system everywhere around the world in any way they can. That doesn't mean we get rid of all of them. So there will be some people who maybe take advantage of, like, to say that actually sounds weird, to take advantage of being on disability when all it gets you is dire poverty and the amount of hoops you have to jump through to get onto it, like the amount of paperwork that needs to be filled out, the doctors that need to sign off on it. Like it is, and they purposely deny people to begin with. And they're very quick to reject people because they don't want it on. So I have a hard time believing that there are people on disability who don't need to be on it. I do know there are a lot of people who need to be on it who aren't because they can't make it past those barriers. Okay, why don't we get on to, let's see, what do we want to do next? I have some stuff on Pierre Poilievre. Oh, right. Why don't we do this one next, though? Oh, okay. So there's like 3 more big kind of stories that I want to get to. Who wants to hear about the person who ran over a cop and got away with it? Let's see, it is this time here. So, a little while ago, it was in the news that some police officers were arresting someone in a parking garage, and that person ran over a police officer and killed him. Horror! And the politicians and the police, and this was in Toronto, they were all upset and wanted this person convicted. Well, the trial ended and he was found not guilty. And we'll dive a little bit into why that was the most reasonable outcome possible for this. And if anything, I think the person who was charged with this can go after a whole bunch of people for defamation and just how they targeted him. So let's get to news share. So we have here, suspect charged in connection with death of Toronto police officer granted bail. So this is one of the original articles, and as you can see, it's from September 22nd, 2021. And and this is from Global News. We'll go back here.
31-year-old Umar Zamir watched and listened from the Toronto South Detention Centre as a list of bail conditions was read out. While he stands charged with the first-degree murder of a Toronto police officer, he has been released from custody.
We need to take a really hard look at the bail system. These are people.
This is that whole, evil people should be behind bars. We shouldn't let these people out on bail, and yet it was proven this person was innocent. So they wanted to keep an innocent person. Like, that's the thing about bail that people tend to forget. In the United States and in Canada, I'm just going to switch. This has been a pet peeve of mine for a little while. Are we countries where you are presumed innocent before found guilty in a court of law? Is that what our countries stand for? Is that what we believe and what we practice? That people are innocent, that they are presumed innocent before found guilty in a court of law? Because the way that a lot of the police officers, a lot of some people on other networks kind of present bail as a way to imprison people and keep evil people off the streets. They are presuming guilt. They're not presuming innocence. And the point of bail is to make sure that people go to their court hearings. That's the point of it. The point of bail is not to punish people. There are people where they're flight risk and there's other underlying circumstances and things of that sort, and I get that. But the vast majority of people who are behind bars are people who couldn't afford their bail, who might very well be innocent of any crime or accused crime.
People that are accused of very, very serious crimes, and they need to be held accountable.
A publication ban covers the reasons for granting bail, but the president of the Toronto Police Association calls the decision appalling.
There needs to be a message sent out, to other criminal elements in our society.
So there needs to be a message sent out to other criminal elements. So already this person is saying that this person, so this officer here is saying that this person who's been charged is guilty. He's a criminal element. And by letting him out on bail, it's sending a message to other criminal elements that they can get away with this sort of thing.
That if you commit these acts, you're not going to be getting bail.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford called the decision beyond comprehension. It's completely unacceptable, he tweeted.
Premier of Ontario commenting on this. Because of course he's commenting on this because it was a police officer in the line of duty who was killed. And that's when Doug Ford actually cares about workers who die on the job. So this is beyond comprehension. It's completely unacceptable that the person charged for this heinous crime is now out on bail. Our justice system needs to get its act together and start pulling victims and their families ahead of criminals. So again, he's calling this person a criminal. And this was also the second tweet that he sent out. This was a revised one. There was one, I decided not to include it because he quickly deleted it apparently. So I have no proof that he actually tweeted it himself, just another account saying this was the tweet before he deleted it, where Doug Ford is saying this person is responsible for the officer's death. So here, again, just, putting victims and their families ahead of criminals. So he's calling this person a criminal.
That the person charged for this heinous crime is now out on bail. Our justice system needs to get its act together and start putting victims and their families ahead of criminals.
It was just after midnight on July 2nd when Constable Northrup and his partner, who were in plain clothes at the time, responded to a priority call at this underground garage. Police said it came in as a call for a robbery but was subsequently upgraded to a stabbing.
Officers said Northrup, a 31-year veteran of the Toronto Police Service, was struck by a vehicle and rushed to hospital where he was later pronounced dead. At the time, the chief of police said,
"We believe this was an intentional and deliberate act."
And with bail granted...
Okay. I get that police do that when they're giving press conferences, just giving their opinions on it, but it really feels inappropriate for them to be commenting on something when it's in-house,
Chief James Raymer tweeted, "The decision by the court is one step in what will be a long process." Zamir was released on 3 sureties pledging a total of $335,000. He will live under house arrest monitored electronically. He must surrender his passport, may not leave Ontario or attend an international airport, and cannot drive a car. His lawyer said his client's family is pleased and that they welcome him home.
In the words of Zamir's lawyer, there is much more to this case and to this tragic situation than meets the eye. He plans to seek to vary the terms of the publication ban, he said, so that the public can have a better understanding of the case and why the decision was taken today. The case is back before the courts on October 1st. Back to you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, so based on this, suspect charged in connection with death of Toronto officer granted bail. So we've heard that an officer was run over, plainclothes officers, blah, blah, blah. There is some context missing from this that is so important. So important. But just the way that this was originally painted, that it's like, oh, this person intentionally ran over this police officer. But when you hear the details of this, wow. So here's the judge saying, "My deepest apologies. Judge offers rare apology to Umar Zamir after trial sheds new light on case. So what happened was these plainclothes officers ran into this underground parking lot and started going after this vehicle with Umar in. His pregnant wife and small child were also in this vehicle. And these big, burly, plainclothes police officers aggressively approached his vehicle without identifying who they were. What would you do if a couple of big burly men started slamming on your car windows and you had vulnerable family members in the vehicle with you? That is some major context that was missing way back when. But it came out in court. So, remember, it's best to maybe presume innocence, before, just assuming they're guilty of being a criminal. Let's see.
Welcome back. We have breaking news from the University Avenue Courthouse. Umar Zamir has been found not guilty on all counts in the death of Constable Jeffrey Northrop. Not guilty on all counts. Zamir had pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder in Northrop's death in July of 2021. A 12-person jury reached the decision after deliberating for almost 3 days. Over 3 days.
Now, I pause it here, and it goes dark, so you can't really see it, but this is an indication of what one of the cops look like here. And it's a bit hard to see. Let's see if I back up a bit. It's a bit hard to see, but there's nothing about this that would indicate they're a police officer. Just this person and another person like him running up on your car with vulnerable family members in it. What would you do?
Stay with CB24 as we continue to follow this developing story. We have a
This guy here runs up on you when you're in a car with your pregnant partner and a small child. And this guy and another guy like him just runs up on your vehicle. You might try to back up and then run away in any way possible to protect your family.
Reporter in the court right now. Beatrice Vaisman has been covering this for several days. She's going to be getting us reaction to this. We're getting word from her that she told us that Umar Zamir burst into tears when the verdict was read out by the jury. We also have our Steve Ryan, who's going to be giving us his reaction, as well as our slew of legal experts who are on tap. So again, keep it here on CB24 as we continue to fill you in and read.
Okay, so a bit from the article here. A notably different version of events than what was first described by police and politicians came into focus over the course of Umar Zamir's 5-week murder trial in Toronto, culminating in a rare move by the presiding judge. After a jury acquitted Zamir of first-degree murder charges he faced in connection with the death of Toronto Police Department Constable Jeffrey Northrop, Justice Anne Molly offered the 34-year-old man an apology for his troubles. Mr. Zamir, you're free to go, Molly told him in the courtroom on Sunday. You have my deepest apologies for what you have been through. Northrop died on July 2nd, 2021, after being struck by Zamir's BMW in the parking lot underneath Toronto's Nathan Phillips Square. The officer had rushed the vehicle. There we go. The officer had rushed the vehicle alongside his partner, Lisa Forbes, both plainclothes, while investigating a stabbing that had just taken place nearby the court heard. So a couple plainclothes officers just rushed the vehicle. Zamir, with his pregnant wife and young son at the time, has always maintained he did not know the people approaching his BMW were police officers. He attempted to escape the confrontation, first reversing his BMW and striking Northrop before driving forward and fleeing the scene, according to evidence presented in court. At a trial, prosecutors alleged Samir knew Northrop was a police officer and that he drove directly at the man. Northrop was almost 300 pounds and stood 6'3". Okay, if a man who was 300 pounds and stood 6'3" was coming at me in a vehicle, looking like he was about to do me harm, I'm driving away. And if I'm trying to protect people, you're driving away as fast as you can. You're not necessarily intending to hit anyone, but you want to get your loved ones to safety. He was huge and visible, Crown Counsel Karen Simone told the court. The defense's case, on the other hand, presented a very different version of events. Zamir had gone downtown that day for a regular family outing, accompanied by his pregnant wife and small child. He had feared for his life when he saw 3 individuals run at him and acted out of fear, they argued. Zamir had no criminal record, and even if he had known the individuals were police officers, would have had no reason to flee, his lawyer suggested. So, yeah, basically, if they had indicated they were police, showed the badge, had police uniforms on, he probably just would have stayed and answered whatever questions they had because he wasn't guilty of anything. The defense has also alleged that officers who testified during the trial lied. They lied. They lied repeatedly under oath. This is alleged that the officers lied repeatedly under oath, and they're still officers. Lawyer Nadir Hassan told the court that 3 officers who witnessed the incident, including Forbes, lied in the witness box, stating Northrop was standing in the middle of the laneway in front of Zamir's car, visible with his hands outstretched when he was run over. Malloy echoed this claim in her charge to the jury Thursday, stating the officer's testimony didn't match the physical evidence and advised the 12-person panel to watch out for possible collusion. Wow. So we have the people here who are supposed to uphold the law, to make sure other people are upholding the law, breaking the law. Where's the consequence for them? Are they going to go to jail for lying under oath? Are they going to be charged like any other civilian who would lie under oath? Possible collusion? You know, that sounds like, when it comes to a court case, that sounds like a pretty serious thing for police officers to be doing. Zamir broke into loud sobs as the jury handed down its verdict. His wife, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name, cried into the shoulders of family members. Speaking to reporters outside the courthouse shortly after, Zamir apologized for the accident. I'm sorry for what happened. I never meant for any of this to happen like this, the Brampton accountant and father of 3 said. Sunday's acquittal drew disappointment from Northrop's family and fellow officers. Oh, they were disappointed that justice was accurate. You know, why are they disappointed? Like, shouldn't they just be happy that, oh, this person was found free and not guilty, so our justice system works? Instead, they had all their hopes that this person would be found guilty. Like, it doesn't, they should be indifferent to verdicts, is what I'm trying to say. That the police should be indifferent to it. They have the evidence, they present their evidence, in which case they might lie about that, and then let the cards fall. But to be disappointed that this person isn't going away in jail. Okay, no. Shut the fuck up, please. You shouldn't be... His life has already been hell for the past few years because of these accusations. Northrop's Northup's widow spoke in front of the courthouse on Sunday afternoon, telling reporters she was very disappointed in the outcome. Well, maybe, just saying, if the officer didn't aggressively go after a man, his pregnant wife, and small child in a car without identifying himself in plain clothes, maybe if the police officer was doing his job correctly, who's at fault here? Is it Umar's fault for trying to protect his family, or is it the police officer's fault for not doing his job properly? I don't really care what she has to say. When asked if service would address allegations of perjury from its officer, I never know how to say his name. He's the current police chief. Said Sunday wasn't the time, telling reporters we'll talk later. When asked by reporters Monday at an unrelated police conference if the case would spark any police change within Toronto Police Services, Mayor Olivia Chow said any operational or human resource matters within TPS fall under chief jurisdiction. For matters of policy, she pointed to the board. She's been really weak at pushing back against the police, unlike what she kind of ran on when she went to be mayor of Toronto. I trust that process, Chow said. It's really, at the end of the day, up to the chief to manage the police services, and it's not my place to comment on. It's mayor of Toronto. Actually, he kind of is. Kind of is. The details revealed throughout the trial built a new understanding of Northrup's death and how the events of July 2nd unfolded. The day Northrup was killed, the then Chief of Police, James Ramir, called the incident a deliberate killing. The officer died after being intentionally struck. So again, this is the police adding their own biases in before any of the evidence and facts have been laid out. Struck by a vehicle near City Hall overnight, Ramir told reporters in a press conference. Weeks later, politicians and public figures disavowed the decision to release Zamir on bail, with Premier Doug Ford calling the judge's decision beyond comprehension. We'll get back to something about Doug Ford in just a moment, too, when it comes to this sort of thing. Our justice systems need to get its act together, start pulling victims, and we saw that tweet. Mayor at the time, John Tory, said it was almost impossible to imagine a circumstance in which an accused in a case of first-degree murder would be granted bail. Again, is he innocent? Is he presumed innocent? If he's presumed innocent, then it's like, is he a flight risk? Is he a risk for leaving town? Is he a risk for more violence and all that sort of stuff? Like all those other factors that key into whether or not a person should be released on bail. The fact we don't know the reasons why the presiding judge made such an extraordinary decision thanks to a publication ban is very troubling. It is wrong and represents one more argument supporting my long-standing call for bail reform, the former mayor wrote. We should all know the reasons that lie behind such a questionable decision. I'm just, here's somebody actually agreeing with me. Okay, criminal defense lawyer Daniel Brown, who was not associated with Zamir's case, said it serves as a reminder of how important and fragile the presumption of innocence is in Canada. Our police chief and political leaders were quick to toss aside that protection to push their own political agenda. See, there's somebody who's actually like a lawyer saying the same thing that I just said, and I didn't read ahead in this article. Just saying. Brown told CTV News the city should be able to expect police will uphold the law and that officers will not approach any case with a specific agenda. He called Chief the police chief's comments on a hope for a different outcome equal parts chilling and disturbing. The pursuit of a murder charge against Mr. Zamir and the failure of the top police officials to accept Sunday's jury verdict as being correct is suggestive of a tunnel vision on the part of the prosecutors and the police that underlies the wrongful convictions, the lawyer says. Following Sunday's verdict, Hassan offered a thank you to supporters. When we first took the case, there was a lot of hatred directed towards my client, but they didn't know the truth, Hassan wrote. Now Canadians know. I didn't need to add it, but there was a GoFundMe to help raise costs to cover the expenses of the court. And the reason why I'm not adding it is because it far surpassed what was the GoFundMe. They were asking for $200,000. When I looked at the link, they were $80,000 over target. So there's some good news with that at least. So his court costs will be covered, which is really good. Speaking outside the courthouse on Sunday, Zamir closed his remarks with an expression of gratitude to his lawyers, whom he called angels, but also to Canadians. I can't thank Canada. I can't thank enough Canada as a whole, he said. I thought. Sorry, I'm just names. I thought his wife and I made a wrong decision when we came to Canada, but now I see that Canada did not let an injustice happen. So a little bit more to this, and CP24 is all over this because, you know, they're one of Toronto's main news sources. Why was Umar Zamir tried for murder? Observers raised questions about persecution. I'm not going to read the whole of this article, but it is, again, pointing out how biased the police were when it came to this, as to why he was tried for murder in the first place. Like, legal observers are questioning the decision to charge and prosecute a man for murder in the death of a Toronto police officer when the evidence did not support it, saying the case raises concern about fair process in the justice system. Let's see. I can link these articles below if people are interested to read more about this, but this does have a lot of legalese people posing a lot of questions as to how this was allowed to happen and how the police were able to act with impunity and the fact that they lied. CCLA presses for action after Toronto Police Chief comments on Zamir and acquittal. So Toronto Police Chief has yet to apologize for the doubt he cast on a man's innocence when commenting on his acquittal. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association said Thursday, as it asked the civilian body overseeing the force whether it thinks the chief's comments were appropriate, and we'll read his comments in just one moment. So here we have police officers, the chief of police, saying how disappointed he is at this. There's allegations that the police actually lied while under oath, all because a man was trying to protect his family when he thought he was being attacked. During trial, prosecutors alleged Zamir chose to drive dangerously even though Northrup and his partner were nearby, and alleged Zamir intentionally ran down Northrup. Defense lawyer argued Zamir didn't know they were officers and feared his family was under attack from robbers or gang. They argued Zamir had no reason to want to flee police and tried to escape as safely as he could. So this is the official statement from the police chief, Myron. I keep on wanting to say Dimwit when I see this. Myron Dimwit statement on loss of Detective Constable Jeffrey Northrup and verdict. So remember, this is the police chief sending this out after this person was found not guilty of all charges. This has been a difficult time for the Toronto Police Service family. A loss of Detective Constable Jeffrey Northrup has been devastating to his family, his partner, members of the 52 Division, and the entire policing community. Jeff loved coming to work and fondly remembered by all of us who knew him as an outstanding police officer and member of our community. While we respect the judicial process and appreciate the work of the 12 citizens who sat on a very difficult case, I share feelings of our members who were hoping for a different outcome. You should be hoping for the truth to be the outcome, that if a person is guilty, they're found guilty, and if they're not guilty, that they're found not guilty. That is the outcome you should be hoping for. And part of the reason why they're having so much difficulty with this is then maybe they should reflect on how they actually do their job. Maybe they should, do some introspection and say, okay, so this officer who they loved died in the line of duty. Well, maybe we should change how we do things to prevent this from ever happening again, so that another innocent man isn't put in the position of, trying to flee the scene and accidentally killing a police officer. Because from the sounds of it, he was not trying to kill anyone. He was just trying to protect his family. But what? So they share the feelings our members were hoping for a different outcome? What? So you were hoping that everyone would just believe the lies the police officers were telling on the stand. You were just hoping that you could get away with, putting this poor man behind bars and putting all the blame on him for what happened. Is that what you're saying, dimwit? Just absolutely disgusting behavior from the police, who have over $1 billion in funding in Toronto. Police service there. Their budget is over $1 billion. And this is the same police chief that basically sent out like threatening messages to the city because the mayor wanted to give 12 million less in a 20 million increase in the police budget. She just wanted to give, like an 8 million increase as opposed to a full 20 million. And the police chief went onto his social media accounts and say, if you do this, then, should the time come that you need help, we might not be there for you. Not going to help you out. Sorry. Might not be there if you don't give us all the money that we're asking for. This is the same police chief. We will now focus on coming together as a policing family, blah, blah, blah. Every Toronto police officer should go home to their family at the end of the day after serving and protecting in... This is just... It's dark when you know what the percentage of domestic abuse with police officers is. Just saying. On July 2nd, 2021, a terrible tragedy occurred, and we want the Northrup family to know. So basically, yeah, they're still going to treat them like a, support the widow. Sure, yeah, do that. That's good. Do that. She lost her husband while he was on the job. Support her. Fine, but don't be upset because you don't like the fact that it's your protocols that led to this officer's death. And so Sam here on Twitter, Sam Hirsch, I think, he tweets a lot. Good person to follow on Twitter if you're still on there. There's literally no better advocates for police reform and or lowering police budgets than police themselves. And so here we have Catherine McDonald from Global News just saying, as the chief was leaving, he was asked if he would address allegation of perjury and collusion in testimony. The chief replied, today's not the day for that. We'll talk later. And he just, ran into his car. So if you can't hear it, they're saying, are you going to, say anything about the accusations of perjury? And that's his answer. Well, today's not the day for that, John. We'll talk later. Yeah, he just says, today's not the day for that. We'll talk later. And this person has a whole bunch of more little clips and stuff that people can go, Catherine McDonald on Global, to see more little clips and stuff if you're still on the hostile fart sauna known as Twitter. And so here's T-Dot resident who covers a whole bunch of Ontario and Toronto Doug Ford stuff as well. I wonder if Global News will think twice about the cop killer headlines in the future. So again, we're going back in time, September 2021. Breaking, accused cop killer Umar Zamir is being released on $335K bail. Zamir is charged with first-degree murder of Constable Jeff Northrup. Zamir must live under house arrest, blah, blah, blah. So here we have the media just saying he's an accused cop killer. He's a cop killer. He's accused of being a cop killer. You could say that he's, accused, or like, I don't even know, like, what would be the better headline is responsible for the death of a police officer in the line of duty. I think might have been a better headline. Not as spicy, doesn't really catch the audience the way that they would hope. A little bit more accurate. And so, breaking, Premier Doug Ford addresses the Umar Zamir verdict for the first time and that tweet in September 2021 when Zamir was first granted bail. So, of course, people are like, hey, Doug Ford, Dougie, you tweeted about this. What do you think of this? And he has a very chicken shit answer to that.
We saw the verdict and he was exonerated. Any regrets?
It's a very sad situation that happened, and I respect the court's decision. My heart goes out to Margaret and her family as well. It's a very sad situation, guys. So I want to just focus moving forward on the economy, creating jobs, and you're all invited to the announcement on Thursday. That's what we're going to be.
Do you feel like an apology is necessary, though, for that tweet? Sorry. Do you feel like there's an apology that's necessary, Premier, for that tweet? There are some who are saying that what you said was inappropriate in September of 2021.
Something at that time, I had limited information. The courts have decided.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Courts have decided, the jury decided. Something at that time, I had limited information.
He had limited information at that time. Then why the fuck are you tweeting out about it? Like, maybe wait and get all the facts first before, throwing this poor man under the bus, so to speak. Like, as the premier of a province, you shouldn't be adding your own opinions into court cases like this. He could have just simply said how upset he was, that this officer lost his life in the line of duty, even though you don't see him tweeting that out when it's another type of worker who loses their life in the line of duty or while they're working. And he could have just said, I hope the facts come out in court one way or the other. But no, he more or less accused him of being guilty of being a cop killer at the time. Not in those words, but that was kind of the intent behind what he was saying.
The courts have decided, the jury decided, and you have to respect the justice system.
Do you regret it? Do you regret it?
Again, you have to respect the justice system. The jury decided, and you have to respect the justice system.
Okay, there's a reason why I'm backing up on that, and we'll get to that in just a moment.
Do you regret it? Do you regret it?
Again, what I was saying is there's a limited amount of information I had at the point, and the courts decided. So thanks, guys.
When are you going to land Toyota?
And the courts decided. Okay, so why I keep on going back to this. I've covered this before. Folks, we need to appoint like-minded juries. We can't have people listening to the facts and evidence in our courtroom. I have done stories on this before, but Doug Ford is trying to get more like-minded judges. And he's trying to find little workarounds in the committees to get more conservatives there, more like-minded people who will just take whatever the police officers are saying at face value, as opposed to, actually going over the evidence and seeing if it collaborates? No, not collaborates. Correlates? I don't know. It backs up the, when the evidence actually backs up what the cops are saying. There's a word there in my head, and I wish it could come out more smoothly when I'm in these middle of these rants. It would sound a lot more professional then. The end of the word is operate. First part of the word, it's in my head, but I can't seem to say it. Yeah, it's operate, whatever the first syllable or two is. Operate. What the police were saying. So yeah, I've covered this before. He's not happy, the fact that this person was, found not guilty of these charges, and he would have much rather have people, judges and stuff that might not have apologized and might have been more hard or might have dismissed more information and all that sort of stuff. Yes, so life, I actually know the word, I just can't say it right now for some reason, and I see you typed it out, and that is the word that I want. I'm having a mental block on how to actually say it. Cooperate? Corroborate. I know the word, and I can say it at times, but sometimes words will just kind of fly out of my head. But yeah, you guys know the word. You know the word. You're in the chat, you know the word. Corroborate. Corroborate? Does that sound right? Corroborate. The things that I've chosen to do for a living with my skill set. Anyway, yes, so that's why I was pointing out that little thing that Doug Ford was saying earlier, because if he could get his way, he would change the courts so they would have found this man guilty of killing this police officer, even though this man was not trying to kill anyone. He was just trying to protect his family. But also, just a reminder, some people might not know this, but a little while ago, this was a thing. This was an actual thing in a Toronto Police Department. You're not prepared for what you're about to see. I can guarantee you're not prepared for what you're about to see. This article I'm about to pull on screen, and it goes to show the type of people that are in the Toronto Police Force. Okay, you ready for this? You ready? Toronto police to shut down bar in headquarters after drunk driving crash. They had a bar in their headquarters. Toronto police to shut down bar inside headquarters. I haven't actually listened to this. Let's see how long this is.
Our inside Toronto Police Headquarters is closing after more than 30 years following. Our inside Toronto Police Headquarters is closing after more than 30 years following several drunk driving incidents. Court photos show this vehicle crashed downtown in 2019. A police constable was behind the wheel. He was charged but not convicted of drinking and driving. Two other high-ranking...
Sorry, what was that? Again, it's funny how the police seem to always get off with these sorts of things. But to be driving drunk from the bar inside the headquarters. And then it's like, well, he was charged, but, he got off. Gee, wonder why that happened, huh?
Officers have also pleaded guilty to impaired driving in recent years. The bar has existed since 1989 as a perk for senior officers. Former Toronto Mayor John Sewell says it's...
Yes, a perk for the senior officers is to have access to alcohol while on the job. That's what we want our police services doing, being drunk.
Its existence is outdated, and he's complained to the force about it.
If a senior officer has been drinking there and picked up for drunk driving, somebody's missed the duty of care on that one. Very, very, very unusual to find a government agency having a bar in a government building.
I could understand a Tim Hortons. That I can understand, but a bar?
In a statement provided to CTV, the Toronto Police Service says the Chief's office, in consultation with the Executive Officer Lounge Committee, notified senior officers that the AGCO-approved license will not be renewed. The license was used infrequently and largely for formal functions like retirements or when hosting dignitaries. Moving forward, the service will apply for a special occasions permit from the AGCO should we decide to host an event where alcohol may be served. Health Canada's...
How about not serve alcohol to police officers in their headquarters? I told you you weren't prepared for that headline. Just wild. Absolutely wild that that was a thing. For 30 years, they had a bar in their headquarters. Wow. Just wow. You know, like considering, you know, all the restrictions and regulations that we have around alcohol in this province too. You know, like bars are only allowed to serve at certain times of the day. You have to have your smart serve in order to be able to serve alcohol. You know, at the time, only LCBOs could sell alcohol. Like, it was just all this stuff. And yet they had a bar in their workplace. Wow. Wow. Oh. Is that... Like, I'm trying to think of other things like, you know, a casino in the House of Commons or something. You know, just gamble away all of the tax money that they get. Just, oh, anyway, let's check the sandbox, shall we? We still have a couple of big stories that I want to get to. Oh, a lot of people commenting on this story. Yeah, it's quite the story. I'm so glad that Umar was found not guilty and that his GoFundMe was met and surpassed. Like, that's probably the best outcome. And, you know, again, because he was on house arrest, he was released on bail, he was on house arrest, he was monitored. So it's not like he was out wandering about or anything. He got to spend that time with his newborn baby because his wife was pregnant when this incident happened. And so there was a good possibility that if they had locked him away and not granted him bail, he wouldn't have been around for the birth of his child. Like, people don't understand some of the consequences of keeping people, you know, behind bars when bail can be granted for the sake that you just want to punish them ahead of time, that you're not presuming their innocence. And then they can miss out on things like the birth of their child. He lost like a lot in this. I think he lost his job and a whole bunch of other things. So this is the best outcome for him in this situation, but the fact that he was even charged in the first place was so biased of the police department. When clearly when they started to actually lay out the facts, it was just a tragic accident. You know, he didn't want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to protect his family. Just so gross. Oh. I scrolled up to the top and Shamikli has 100%. Sandy, I got rejected my first try. Luckily, there's an advocacy group here that helped me through the second stage that I got in, talking about getting onto disability benefits. Yeah, I got on it a long, long time ago. My mental health, it's just too... My emotional state is too unpredictable on any given day, and it's hard for me to interact with people if I don't know what kind of mood I'm in, considering that these moods can be quite not good, to put it mildly. FG Bell received something like $100 million in COVID relief and posted record profits. They aren't worried about people exploiting programs, just the wrong people. Yeah. Yeah, so many corporations and rich people got benefits during COVID that they didn't need at all. It was just extra money thrown their way. And meanwhile, people on disability didn't qualify for the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit. And for the people who didn't know and applied and got it, they then lost everything, because when you get government money from one source, you can't then get government money from another source like that. So if you're on disability and you got CERB, the Emergency Relief Benefit, what the province would then do is deduct dollar for dollar. And since it was all over the news and the media and the politicians and Justin Trudeau saying anyone who needs it can apply for it, and it will be granted right away. So many people on disability thought that this was actually going to be for them too. I knew better. And so when we did get our benefit for 3 months, we got an extra $200 here in Ontario. And I had to call and actually ask, make sure I got that during COVID. And my worker asked me if I got CERB, and it's like, no, I know that because I've accidentally done something along those lines before. And it's hard to dig out of that hole. Just absolutely disgusting how this country treats people that are living on disability. Because trust me, we don't want to be living in dire poverty. You know, I don't want to have to rely on an Amazon wish list to help build my studio. You know, hoping that I can get more patrons soon. Hoping that I can get more ad revenue soon. Because, you know, the money that I get from the province isn't enough. It just isn't enough for rent and groceries. Oh. Grand Theft Autobot, I wonder what his stance would be if the cop ran the person over, killing them. Well, we don't have to wonder what that would be. We see it all the time when the police kill on purpose or on accident people all the time. They're never charged. They get off all the time. Like, I think here in Canada, there's been some rare cases where, you know, the police officers were actually charged and there were some consequences put in place for, you know, killing an unarmed suspect. But the vast majority of time when a police officer kills somebody in the line of duty, there's no consequences. None. And I've covered stories similar to that where they've done something horrendous. Like there was one cop that was drunk driving and crashed his car, then went to a motel, left the scene of the accident, and lied to a different police department about what happened. He got demoted. Just demoted for a couple years, but was still making over $100,000 a year. Or another police officer that was found guilty of harassing his ex and threatening to kill her. Got demoted for a couple years. And again, he was making over $100,000 after that demotion. Feel like I missed something. People are saying something about I hope everything is okay, Kelly Bach. I don't know. I can't scroll up high enough to see what people are saying. They hope you're okay. My dogs are got. They ruined this guy. Yeah, his life was turned completely upside down from this. Nope, cops not identifying themselves as cops is seriously stupid. Yeah, I've seen stories in the States all the time where cops, plainclothes cops, will approach somebody in a car or at their house without identifying themselves. And as soon as that person thinks that they're being robbed and uses their Second Amendment right and pulls out their gun, then the cops shoot them dead. And again, those cops aren't held responsible for that death at all. But, you know, the person had no reason to believe that they were cops. Shamigli, the cop looks like somebody I'd absolutely want to get away from. BKK, God, I hope he sues. I think there might be some grounds for it. No, corroborate, I think is how you say the word. Sorry. Bad lefty, not even slightly shocked. Cops lying in court is the normal state of affairs, sadly. Shamigli, how are they allowed to state in the media that it's deliberate before the trial? I'm not, like, I don't know the rules around that so much because I have seen, more so in the States than here in Canada, where there's a news conference with the police about something and they actually do say that sort of thing quite often. I don't know how appropriate it is, where they say, we don't think the suspect, like, we don't think this was a hate-motivated crime, or sometimes they'll say, we think this is a hate-motivated crime, and they'll do that before the court case. So I think police have done this plenty of times before, where they kind of state their opinion on if they think an act was intentional or if there was a motivation behind it before it goes to court. I don't think that's very appropriate in any situation. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, like I'm pretty sure I've seen things like, we do not think this is a hate-motivated crime, or we think this is a hate-motivated crime. I think I've seen those types of statements before, and this really isn't that far off from, you know, I think cops have said in other instances of, we believe these acts were intentional or something. It seems so wrong for them to do that when it's affecting, like, the bias there because it was one of their own. It's one of those things where they should, that word, when you remove yourself from the situation, usually, like, judges will do that. If there's a conflict of interest, there's a word for that. I'm doing good today, aren't I? Where they separate themselves from it because they have personal biases in it. That's probably what the cops should have done in this case. Where, what the word? God damn it! There's a word where if there's a conflict of interest, that they remove themselves from the situation. And I think when it comes to the death of a police officer, they definitely should have done that. God damn it, what's the word? By the time I scroll down in the sandbox, I should be seeing that word. Grand Theft Auto bot, yeah, he needs to sue the Toronto police. Might be grounds for it. Shamigli, Jeff loved coming to work and to terrify and harass innocent members of the public. Yeah, I love being in plain clothes and going after people aggressively. My dogs are goth. CBC just covered a story on how $134 million in tax dollars have been paid to police in Ontario the past 11 years for cops on suspension. I think I have that story kind of like in the sidelines, and it's one of those things where I have so many stories to cover. Like, this could be a daily show. It's been in the sidelines about how much money they make, and sometimes, like, even for officers that are off duty, that, you know, they're suspended from work, but they're still making so much money at home. Yeah, I think I have that article somewhere. It's just, yeah. Shamigli, we'll talk later. Now get out of my way before we run you over. Yeah, there's actually when the police chief was going back into the car, that's almost the vibe. It's like, yeah, out of my way before I run you over. And everyone trying to help me out with that word that I know the word. Corroborate. I'm going, when we get into the one story about the kafia, I'm going to struggle so much. And partly I can say the word because I've practiced it enough now, the kafia. But as soon as I see it spelled out, it wrecks me. Corroborate. It's what FG is putting. Corroborate. Yeah, that sounds right. See, I can say these words, but sometimes the pronunciation will just totally go out of my brain. And normally, if I'm doing a scripted thing, that's fine because then I go to Google and have Google tell me how to say the word over and over again. And sometimes it's words that I've said plenty of times before, but yeah, it's just autistic ADHD thing. And people reacting to the bar in the headquarters of the police. Yeah, they had a bar in their headquarters. Told you, you guys weren't ready for that headline. Teddy Cool, I read a art. Oh, that jumped away. Something about the ridiculous house prices in Toronto, and yes, they are. They are. Ah, it jumped. It jumped. Oh, I shouldn't spend too much time in this. Recusal. Shamigli, I saw that one first. They should recuse themselves. That's the word that I was looking for. Thank you. Yes, the police should have recused themselves from giving a news conference when it's a police officer that was involved in a death type thing. They shouldn't be giving their opinion at that point. They should be recused. Yes, lots of people got it. I saw Shamigli put it first. Well, I don't know. It's just the first time I saw it. But yes, that is the word. Okay, well, like I said, there's still lots to get to, so since I was talking about it, let's do the one about the kafia. I'm trying to think of like a word that sounds like kafia to explain how outlandish this whole situation is. Kafia debacle. I don't know, something like that. It's just Canada is a racist country. And sometimes it shows more than others. So, to set this up first, because there's a couple, that's not the only story that I want to cover in this genre of, again, when I cover things that are happening with Palestinians, with Gaza, all that sort of stuff, I try to do it from a Canadian angle, because it's rarely ever covered on these types of shows. And a little while ago, I covered somebody called Anthony Housefather. Really interesting name there. And he was really, really upset that the Liberals and the NDP put forth a motion just saying, you know what, we should stop selling weapons to Israel. Just saying. So it was a motion that was asking for all these things to allow more humanitarian aid in and all this sort of stuff. And Anthony Housefather had a complete and utter meltdown over it. So he's a liberal. And he was just so upset about it. So a little bit of a reminder of who this guy was. And I love this shot so much. It's just, this is from a CPAC. And so this is like the Canadian version of C-SPAN, I think is what it is in the States. You know, the Canadian government official thing. And this is just, I love this so much because of how ridiculous this is. But just a reminder of who this douche canoe is.
Your role within this party, I mean, this has been going on for a number of months now. There's been tensions in Canada, rising anti-Semitism. You've seen your government struggle to sometimes your role within this party. I mean, this has been going on for a number of months now. There's been tensions in Canada, rising anti-Semitism.
Sorry,
I imagine people want to keep me. I think they'd want to keep anybody, wouldn't they?
Is this the first time you're actually kind of reflecting on your role within this party? I mean, this has been going on for a number of months now. There's been tensions in Canada, rising anti-Semitism. You've seen your government struggle to sometimes or you know, come up with a position that satisfies everybody, and you've kind of been at the forefront of this. But is this the first time you're actually kind of reflecting on your future here?
I think it's the first time in my parliamentary career that I've had a reflection like this, where I truly felt last night that a line had been crossed. When my party members got up and cheered and gave a standing ovation to Heather McPherson and the NDP, I started reflecting as to whether or not I belonged. And I will let you know further how I feel over the coming days. For the moment, I'm still there. All right?
Whether or not you belong, though.
So yeah, again, he's crying because we're basically saying, yeah, we should stop selling weapons that are participating in a genocide. We should send in humanitarian aid to the people in Gaza. And this is what he's crying about. Again, this is a liberal. Like, this guy is a liberal. And then they were worried that he might cross the floor and do all this sort of stuff. But in my videos, I'm like, no, he's safe in the Liberal Party. There's still tons of Zionists there. And it's not just me saying he's a Zionist, because I know some people, it's like, well, that could be verbose or something like that. You don't know him. You don't know his mind. You don't know if he is, only, yeah, we kind of do.
Mr. Speaker, I am a Canadian, I am a Jew, and I am a Zionist.
It's clear. Yeah. There's nothing left to the imagination here.
I am proud to have been born in this country. I am proud that my family came here in the 19th century and helped build this country. My family members fought in the World War I and World War II. We are part of Canada and lucky to be so. I've represented Canada in swimming internationally. I've represented Canada as a parliamentarian. And there's no place in the world I want to be other than in Canada.
Okay, we're not going to be watching this whole video because it's like 9.5 minutes long, and this isn't the point anyway. I just wanted to remind people who this guy is. So he absolutely is a Zionist. Like, you don't have to beat around the bush or anything. You can directly call this person a Zionist, because that's exactly what he is. I'm just going to switch screens here for a second. There we go. So he tweeted this out just on April 22nd. So Anthony Housefather hasn't blocked me yet. Hasn't watched any of my videos, I guess. As Passover begins, I would ask Canadians to reflect on the fact that yesterday, our Prime Minister and leader of the opposition both needed to issue statements about the anti-Semitic demonstrations in our streets. The last 6 months were the worst in 300 years of Canadian Jewish history. Okay, so Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre coming out and saying, "Ooh, no, the protests and stuff." We're having pro-Palestinian, anti-genocide protests up here in Canada, just like you guys are down in the States, and we have the same politicians and police enforcement, law enforcement and stuff, cracking down on them far more than they ever would. I have other videos on it, especially one where they were accusing the protesters of targeting Mount Sinai Hospital and going in and harassing Jewish patients and doctors, which they weren't. Lots and lots of stuff on this. So am I surprised about that? No, but this here. Oh, such a poor little puppy he is. The last 6 months were the worst in 300 years of Canadian Jewish history. Okay, just the first thing about this. Canadian Jewish history. So, are you just, this is a little awkward, but was there a Jewish Canada before Canada? For those of you who don't know, Canada is still quite a young country. July 1st, 1867 is when the British North American Act was signed, making Canada kind of what you see today. It wasn't fully Canada yet, but some of the provinces got together and said, okay, let's make a country. If I'm doing my math, which I'm not good at, let's just bring out my cell phone here and actually do some math. So we do this, and so then I go, okay, so we're in 2024, we're in 2024, and if I do minus 1867, which is when Canada became a country, that equals 157. So was there a Jewish Canada before that? And worse than 300 years. 300 years of Canadian Jewish history. Aha. A little off there. A little off there. But that's not it. That's not all. That's not all. Because yes, anti-Semitism has been on the rise, and that is horrible. Actual legit anti-Semitism is horrible and should never happen. However, a lot of the anti-Semitism numbers that you're seeing these days are also including people like "Stop the Genocide," people saying that, or "From the River to the Sea," and that all that sort of stuff is actually getting grouped into those numbers, which is doing a disservice for the people who are actually suffering from anti-Semitic attacks. Like it distracts from that, and that is wrong. So anti-Semitism, huge problem, shouldn't happen. However, to say that it's in the last 6 months were the worst in the 157 years of Canadian Jewish history, about that. On June 7th, 1939, 907 Jewish refugees aboard the Mount St. Louis were denied entry to Canada. The ship returned its passengers to safe harbor in 4 European countries. Sadly, 254 of its passengers later perished in the Holocaust. Yeah, so in the States, you probably heard about this boat trying to dock there, which never happened. And they also tried to dock in Canada, which they were denied, with a whole bunch of Jewish refugees trying to escape the Second World War. You see, Canada wasn't exactly fond of Jewish refugees way back then. It's funny how whenever there's refugees being persecuted, this country is very, suspect about them, kind of like right now. The fact that no refugees from Gaza have actually made it over to Canada, even though 1,000 were granted, 1,000 emergency visas, only 1,000 were granted to the over 2 million people, and they had to, the criteria, anyway, I've covered it before. So during the Second World War, anti-Semitism, huge problem here in Canada. Just huge problem. But then we also have this tweet from Botherboy. He has a YouTube channel. Go check it out. He does a lot of great work. Additionally, Manitoba at the time was wildly anti-Semitic, barring Jewish people from the beaches and vacation spots, and played host to a pro-Nazi rally in the 1930s. There were also plenty of "No Jews Allowed" signs found across Ontario and Quebec. House father is ignorant. Yeah, those are things. Those are this country has been a lot worse when it comes to this than in the past 6 months. Just saying. Of the 300-year history of Jewish Canada. Canada's 157 years old. I don't anyway. So it just goes to show Anthony Housefather is an absolute joke of a person. Absolute joke of a member of parliament, and he is a very proud Zionist. And so, you know, which is just weird considering how fond my parliament seems to be of Nazis. Okay, so maybe it's not that weird. On to the next story. So, there's been a bit of a kerfuffle. That's the word that I was trying to think of. I saw the word, damn it. A kafia kerfuffle. There we go. That will probably be the name of this video when I clip it. There's been a bit of a kafia kerfuffle in Queen's Park, as in the House Speaker decided to just ban them from being on the floor of the House because it's too political in a political setting, even though like Ukrainian pins and other sorts of things like that, those are allowed. But a kafia, But then we also have like the most amazing politician in this country, Sarah Jama, sticking it to them about that. So let's get a little bit into this, shall we?
It's not that the rules don't apply to me. The rules very specifically.
So Sarah Jama was recently kicked out of the House. Well, she wasn't quite kicked out. She was told to leave. And we'll get more into it because she decided to wear a keffiyeh in the house, even though there's a ban on keffiyeh, and she's wearing it because it is an unjust ban. It is a racist ban. It shouldn't be there. It's prejudice. It's horrible in every way imaginable. And Sarah Jama had the courage to stick it to the House and say, no, it's okay to wear this. This isn't a political symbol. It is, a cultural symbol.
Apply to anybody speaking about anti-Palestinian racism, and that in and of itself is political, and that in and of itself is a testament to anti-Palestinian racism that is rampant here and across this country.
Are you worried about further repercussions now?
And what other repercussions could possibly be put in place?
We asked the Speaker.
She's not permitted to come back into the chamber today. There was no way for me to have her removed short of physical force. I wasn't prepared to do that.
If she comes back with the scarf on, she'll be denied entry?
I don't know what's going to happen when we resume.
It's not that the rules don't apply to me. The rules...
So, a little bit more on this story. From Global News, Ontario MPP says she will continue to defy keffiyeh ban at Queen's Park. I can't look at that word and still remember how to pronounce it. Ontario Independent MPP Sarah Jama says she will be continuing to wear a keffiyeh in the legislature despite being told to leave the chamber Thursday for defying a ban on the Arab headdress. The black and white checkered scarf, typically worn in Arab cultures and often used to symbolize solidarity with Palestinians, has been at the center of a tense debate inside Queen's Park since the Speaker, Ted Arnott, branded it as a political symbol and banned it in this spring. I'm not sure that's, yes, it's, I guess, is it spring? Yeah, okay. He said it came under the same strict rules that stop MPPs from using clothing or props to make a political statement. So a keffiyeh is somehow a political statement. A cultural symbol is a political statement. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, along with Ontario NDP, Liberals and Greens, has called on Arnott to reverse his ban. So this is interesting that Doug Ford is actually saying that, you know, banning this, it's a step too far. He's actually saying that that's not good. However, as we'll get into, when they try to reverse it, they need like a consensus in order to reverse it. Many conservative members are like, no, we're not going to let you just reverse it. Ford initially tried to get his MPPs to fall in behind his position and overturn the ban by allowing a unanimous consent motion from the Ontario NDP to pass by the NDP last Thursday. At least one MPP, however, defied him and voted to stop the motion from passing. On Tuesday, the Premier was forced to relent and allow his caucus a free vote. This is actually very rare, because normally you're supposed to toe the party lines, and they're very, very strict about that. So for a party leader to say their caucus is allowed to vote their conscience on anything, it's a pretty bold step. Because Sarah Jama got kicked out of the NDP caucus for, you know, saying there should be a ceasefire. We'll get more into that. Again, after the vote, Ford told reporters it was a very sensitive topic for some in his caucus. Even with the ban in place, Jama has worn a keffiyeh inside the chamber. On Tuesday, Arnott said that he did not intervene when the independent MPP defied the ban because she sat far away from his position and he wasn't able to clearly determine what she had on. I think it was pretty obvious. On Thursday, Jama was asked by the speaker to either remove the clothing item or leave the chamber. Yes, let's dictate to women, you know, what kind of clothing they're allowed to wear. She refused to do either and was named, which means she had to leave the floor of the legislature and could not return for the rest of the day, so denying her the ability to speak up in any sort of debates or to vote. I must warn the member for Hamilton Centre, Sarah Jama, you are named. You must leave the chamber, Arnott said, as a result of being named. The member for the remainder of the day is ineligible to vote on matters before the Assembly, attend and participate in any committee proceedings, use the media studio, and table notices of motions written, questioned, and petitions. So here's the thing about being named in the House. Normally, you don't refer to anyone by their name. You refer to them by what riding they're in. So the honorable member for the riding of Hamilton Centre. Something like that. I don't know if she qualifies as the honor. There's a certain, if they're a minister, then they're the honorable member. So it's usually the member for Hamilton Centre. So when they're debating in question period and going back and forth, they don't actually use people's names so much. And so for the speaker to be like, you are named Sarah Jama. Well, tis. Jama did not leave the chamber when she was told to, although she said she was not been able to participate in a vote after question period. Arnott said that when Jama refused to leave the chamber, he decided not to forcibly remove her. The optics on that one probably would have been really bad when they force a woman who uses a wheelchair for mobility, a black woman who uses a wheelchair for mobility, if they were to forcibly push her out of the chamber. I think he kind of understood how bad those optics would be. There is no way for me to have her removed short of physical force, he said. I wasn't prepared to do that or order it. And then, yeah. Jama told reporters she felt the rules were arbitrarily applied in the House and said that she wore the keffiyeh before the conflict between Israel and Hamas. She said wearing it is the least that can be done to draw attention to the humanitarian conditions in the Gaza Strip. Jama said she would continue to wear the keffiyeh inside the legislature. Absolutely, I'll be back, she said. I'll definitely continue as I'm here to continue to wear it. Ontario NDP leader Merritt Stiles and members of the Liberals and Green caucus are calling on the government to overturn the ban. Okay. So here is one of the people that is pissed off that she wore the keffiyeh. And he has some strong words. And he understands what it's like to be a minority and be targeted. He understands. You're not ready for this. You're not ready for what you're about to hear. Remember, this guy is a member of provincial parliament in Ontario. You're not ready for this.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Leader of the Opposition shows today why she can never lead the province of Ontario, because what she has chosen to do, Mr. Speaker, is to attempt to divide Ontarians, Mr. Speaker. I come from a caucus that is the most diverse caucus in the history of the...
That is a no, but that's...
province, Mr. Speaker. I don't take any lessons from the Leader of the Opposition when it comes to how people, marginalized people, feel. I'm an Italian Canadian who in the 1970s who was spit.
Sorry, what was that?
Italian Canadian who people feel. I'm an Italian Canadian who in the 19 people, marginalized people feel. I'm an Italian Canadian who comes to how people, marginalized people feel. I'm an Italian Canadian who
He knows how marginalized people feel because he's an Italian Canadian. But you know, it totally makes sense that he says that he's like a marginalized person because he also says that this is the most diverse caucus that's ever been when it's conservative. And so if you count Italians as being part of that marginalized group and that diversity, then I suppose.
in the 1970s who was spit on for being a wop. I don't need any lessons from her on what it means to stand up for marginalized people. I do it every...
Keep in mind, Sarah Jama is of Somali descent, a black woman, Muslim, and has to rely on a wheelchair for mobility. And what did he just say?
On what it means to stand up for marginalized people. I do it every single day, and so do the rest of my caucus mates, that we bring people together. I don't need any lessons from her on what? I don't need any lessons from her. What? I don't need any lessons from her.
How dare she speak up like she knows what she's talking about? It's kind of what he's saying.
On what it means to stand up for marginalized people. I do it every single day, and so do the rest of my caucus mates.
So he understands what it's like to be a marginalized group because he's an Italian Canadian. And one time in the 70s, he was spit on because of it or something like that. When he doesn't have to take a lesson from her. A black woman of Somali descent, Muslim, who uses a wheelchair for mobility. She doesn't understand marginalized people, but he does.
And we bring people together, we don't divide them.
Wow. This is so bad, so bad. And so here's the Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East saying absolutely shameful display of anti-Palestinian racism today in the Ontario legislature as members of the Foreign Nations, so the Conservative Party government, block another attempt to reverse the keffiyeh ban. Total disgrace. So multiple PC MPPs shout no when asked for unanimous consent to overturn the keffiyeh ban at Queen's Park. And so short of passing a motion and getting it debated on, because it would have to be debated on, they can call for a unanimous consent motion. So everyone would have to agree. But if you have even one person in the room say no, then it won't pass. And then you have to look at making it a motion, and then it gets debated and it has to go through the process and all that sort of stuff. Okay, I saw her. Who else? She said no. That looked like a no there. And so here we go. In a bizarre moment in his press conference, Premier Doug Ford said Government Bill 166 goes too far in mandating anti-racism and anti-Semitism policies for colleges and universities. Ford just threw under the bus and reversed policy again. Beep, beep. This guy is a rabid right-winger. Does the Toronto Sun, a huge right-wing wig. And so Sarah is just saying, first, Doug Ford threw Speaker of the Ontario Legislative Assembly under the bus. Now he's throwing another MPP under the bus. Bill 166. How about you? Your caucus just stopped giving into the CIJA lobbying when deciding on policy. That would save us time. I forget what this is an acronym from, but they're basically the Zionist Jewish group. Yeah, they're the Zionist Jewish group. So we have, I think it's this one. Yeah, so Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. But then there's also CIJA, which is the one that's usually accusing people of being anti-Semitic and horrible Hamas supporters and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Doug Ford had backtracked on this, and I won't play the videos for you, but I'll point you in the direction where David Dole, he went into a lot further detail as to why Doug Ford is so uncomfortable with this, and it has part to do with his voting base. So I read this post before it was deleted, but somebody was accusing Sarah of being performative by wearing the keffiyeh. And so Sarah said, "This is ridiculous. I'm a proud Muslim. I wore hijab as a teen and started wearing it again during Ramadan alongside studying the Quran. During Ramadan, I decided to wear it permanently. I have wanted to wear it again for so long. You don't get to tell me how to practice my faith." So, not performative. And she's not the only person to wear a keffiyeh in one of the government houses. So this is Queen's Park, so that's provincial level. But then there's also the House of Commons in Ottawa. And we have here Matthew Green. Now he's standing in solidarity with Sarah Jama. He's also worn a keffiyeh on the House floor. Funny, hasn't been the same pushback against him for wearing one. Wonder why. So he's an NDP MP and a hopeful leader of the NDP soon, one would hope. Him or Nikki Ashton, really, one of the two of them really should become leader of the NDP. I'd be good with either one. Either one would be great. So Matthew Green has actually worn a keffiyeh on the House floor as well. So sending solidarity to my sister Sarah Jama, who as an independent MPP has more principle and integrity than the entire Conservative Party combined. They are clearly terrified at the power of one independent MPP. They are terrified of the power and solidarity of the people. Now this picture has been going around, and it's a very powerful picture. Very powerful. Actually, it was bigger the other way. So we'll do this. So here is this bald old white man towering over Sarah Jama, telling her to remove that article of clothing or leave. And here are the white people just minding their own business. Look at the faces of these kids here. So they're usually students who go to the house as part of programs and stuff to they have roles that they do and things of that sort. It's like a honor student student enhancement thing. It's a privilege for students to be able to participate in this. That expression on their faces says a lot. But just the image of him towering over this woman, telling her, tisk, tisk, you need to remove that article of clothing, is disgusting. And all these white people just, whatever. Every single person in that house should be wearing a keffiyeh right now. Right now. It is an unjust ban, and you fight it by defying it. Just absolutely gross that she's the only one doing this. You know, where's the NDP, the party she used to be a part of before she called for a ceasefire? You know, the NDP then eventually called for a ceasefire, but she did it first, so they got mad at her for speaking out of line. Where they should be wearing a keffiyeh right now, but they're not. So Nikki Ashton, she's the other person in the NDP who I would really like to run for leadership. Solidarity with Sarah Jama, the vilification of the keffiyeh. I can't look at that word and say it at the same time. And the open display of anti-Palestinian racism in the Ontario legislature is unacceptable. What is happening in the Ontario legislature is an embarrassment to Canada, and it is. So the leader of the NDP actually decided to tweet about this. The behavior we saw in the legislature today towards an MPP is appalling. The Premier and this government are sending a strong message to Arab Muslim Palestinians in our province that they are not welcome at Queen's Park. The Ontario NDP will not stand for this. Remember, they kicked Sarah Jama out of caucus because a few days after October 7th, she called for a ceasefire. That is what the NDP actually kind of then stands for, isn't it? They've never apologized to her. She received mountains of harassment because of it. She now sits as an independent, which, you know, takes away a lot of her power within the House. Absolutely disgusting that Merritt Stiles would tweet this out and still not acknowledge what happened. Absolutely disgusting that she would do that. You know, just your typical privileged middle-aged white woman, you know, not wanting to get her own hands dirty, not wanting to show any real solidarity with people. She'll just send out a tweet and brush her hands of it. Well, maybe not. We're about to watch a video that she also posted that I have not yet, so I haven't seen yet. So maybe she'll change my mind when I see this video and I'll think of her as, you know, not a horrible whole bunch of censored words. Just, again, I'm just so disgusted that all the other MPPs did nothing. Nothing. They all should be wearing a keffiyeh right now. Everyone who wants that ban overturned needs to put on a keffiyeh right now. To have Sarah Jama have to deal with this by herself is disgusting when they all know it's an unjust ban. So, Doug Ford, it's time your government reverses the keffiyeh ban. Let's see what she actually has to say on this. I haven't watched this.
Hi, I'm Marit Stiles, leader of Ontario's NDP. We've been working to reverse the keffiyeh ban inside the walls of Queen's Park, but Doug Ford's MPPs keep blocking us. So we decided to give the government until May 6th to reverse this unjust rule or expect us and the community to defy the ban. Doug Ford, it's time for you to do the right thing. It's time to reverse the keffiyeh ban, and it's time for us to come together as one community and fight anti-Palestinian racism, hate, and division. Hi.
Oh, you know she's nervous. It's like, we're going to give you a timeline. You know, you have until this date to reverse it because then we might defy it too. And we really don't want to do that. So please, 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 can you have it reversed by then? Huh? Please, please, thank you. Absolutely spineless. Just there were so many other people that could have been a better leader for the provincial NDP than her. So many. Absolutely. There's a word, cowardice, something like that. Just absolutely cowardice coming from her. This is the best politician we have right here, Sarah Gemma. Just absolutely amazing person who has actually been arrested for protesting outside of an encampment being dismantled by the police. She is just an incredible human being. All of these people need to be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely disgusting. So, yeah, I just wanted to point out, so David Dole from the Rational National, you know, Canadian news has gotten bad when he covers it. Actually, he's covered a couple things, because there was Bill Maher, he did that Canadian segment, and then there's, you know, Pierre Poilievre saying really horrible, concerning things. And, you know, when David Dole starts covering Canadian news, you know, things are getting bad. So he's covered this story twice. So here it is. The I'm Italian Ontario debate over keffiyeh gets weird. And he has a lot of good information about it. I really envy his ability to just, oh, here's a subject and be able to do like an hour research into it or something and have like all this brilliant information at his hands. I don't know how he does it so fast. So he has that one about the Italian, and then also he talks about the picture about Ontario MPP Sarah Gemma asked to leave for wearing keffiyeh. So please go check out those videos. If you haven't subscribed to David Dole, you probably don't need to. He has so many subscribers. Go subscribe to him if you haven't already. He does really good work. So that's it for that one. And we still have one more subject after this. What time are we? Oh my gosh. I wanted to keep these around 2 hours. Ugh. See in the majority report, travel mug. I tried calling in this week because, you know, my ears were burning. Yeah, somebody saying, ask a Canadian. And I'm like, sure, ask a Canadian. So I've been trying to call in. I wasn't able to try on Wednesday, but I tried on Thursday. It was on hold, and then they weren't taking any phone calls today. So I'll have to try again next week to answer the caller's question. Because the caller was asking about, you know, how his family members were using Canada as the example, and he didn't really have any good comebacks for it. And it's like, I do. I know how you can answer that. I can, because Matt was saying, oh, ask a Canadian. It's like, yeah, ask a Canadian. Huh? A? Oh, let's check the sandbox. There was also that really bizarre call they got earlier in the week from somebody who was claiming to be Canadian and talking about CSIS and somebody on the run with all this information. I'm like, Oh my God, I wish I had been there. Like, what I would have done to that collar. I would have had so much fun with that. Like, that's the thing. I don't necessarily know if I want to take calls because I'm not good at debate per se. But this guy was just being absolutely ridiculous Canadian. And I'm like, oh, I can match that. I know all about that, eh? Talking about CSIS. And it's like, okay, Canadian guy, you gotta understand that when you say CSIS to the Americans, they have no fuck what you're talking about. They don't know. They don't know. You can say CSIS all you want. They don't know that you're talking about the Canadian Spy Agency. Yeah, something like Canadian Intelligence Service something. CSIS. Think CIA, I guess. And then the RCMP would be somewhat, I guess, like the FBI, something like that. Just gets frustrating when there's all these Canadian colors into the majority report, and it's like, you know what, you just have me on standby, and I can answer these questions. Let's see. Anti-Corporus wondering if I'm pronouncing someone's name right in the sandbox, and I can tell you, no, I'm not. I don't pronounce anybody's name correctly. Well, I pronounce some people's names. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of the names, so I just say whatever comes to my brain. Sometimes it's dyslexia, so I'm seeing letters not in the right order. Also, these aren't real words. So, yeah. 0PE. Oh, at 0PE. So, FG at 0PE. I saw Bassam Youssef sporting one, at least on one of his recent interviews. They're great. I think you're talking about him wearing a keffiyeh. Oh, is TYT up to semantics? I'm seeing some people putting TYT stuff there. I've been aware a little bit of some of their antics lately. It's just, oh my God, are they ever going downhill fast? Like, just absolutely absurd. Some of the stuff that I see. Shamigli, the anti-corporatist, is Shem Egg Lee, but Sandy is doing her best. So. Oh, well, I guess it actually does say egg right there, huh? I guess it all depends on where you break the syllable. Because I see me, glee. So it all depends on where you break the syllable. So you're saying I should break the syllable before the E as opposed to after the E. But you know I'm never going to remember that now. I'm just never going to remember that. Looney Tunes 9000, be warned, racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, and all types of hate will not be allowed in the chat. Be kind or be banned. Yes, want to keep the sandbox clean from turds. I'm okay with people having disagreements and strong disagreements and being very wrong on things, but as soon as they start getting into the territory of saying rude slurs, things of that sort, no, we don't need them. I'm all fine for disagreement, though. Grand Theft Autobot, so he's butthurt because he's a warmonger. Yeah, pretty much. Well, no, he's a Zionist, so he just, wants all the Palestinians dead. My dogs are goth. Please, you love Canada, but why should we be complicit with genocide? Probably saying, I think Anthony said that he loved Canada. Well, Canada's responsible for a whole bunch of genocides, so yeah, it's you can do both. Shemegli says, wonder how it's been for Palestinian Canadians. Yes, anti-Palestinian rhetoric has also been going up a lot too. Anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, that's all been going up. Monope, 300 years? She's not that old. Oh. Monope, why not make it 2,000 years? Yeah, why not? Apparently Jewish Canada has been around for 300 years. Bad Lefty, Sarah Gemma rocks. She does. I'm going to try to reach out. I would love to get her on my channel. Oh my god, I'd love to have a chat with her. Okay, this is just a weird order of messages. I don't know the context, but it sounds weird in order because Grand Theft Autobot says, like the Vancouver Canucks or Captain Canuck, followed exactly by Zero PE saying, I find anyone conflating the two deeply disingenuous and shouldn't be taken seriously. So all I can do is assume that it's for the comment right before that. So whatever you do, do not conflate Vancouver Canucks and the Captain Canuck. Just don't. I'm sorry. Don't know the context. Bad Lefty. This guy is tone deaf. Yeah, maybe. Horrible person. Zero PE looked like white fragility to me. Oh, I am an Italian Canadian. So what do I say? I am I don't even really know my heritage all that well. Well, my last name's Hungarian, but I think on my mother's side it's British and French, like France French, then Canada French. Something. So I'm a Euro-Canadian-ish something. I don't know. I've always wanted to do one of those DNA tests to see what my heritage actually is. Because you can do genealogy all you want, but that doesn't account for some adoptions and affairs and things of that sort. So I'd be curious what kind of mix I am. Shamikli. Just so incredibly gross, yes. Grand Theft Autobot. Is there going to be an impromptu sword fight when a Highlander bursts into Parliament? I don't know what that's about, but yes. Yes, there will be. Bad Lefty. Dole is my favorite American nationalist. American, yeah. Bad Lefty. For real, Sandy. Powerful AF. I'm just assuming everything. Did I get a troll in here? See a whole bunch of messages just deleted. Huh. Thank you for keeping the sandbox clean of turds. I still have one more story that I want to get to. Well, 1.5. You'll understand when I get through it. There's one main story, but then one horror story I want. Like an absolute horror kind of story. Horror scenario story that I want to end the stream with. Anyway, why don't we get back to the news? If I do this first, well, okay. Here we go. Pierre Poilievre, the most likely next Prime Minister of Canada, is just the worst. Like, he's horrible in so many ways. And not only is he horrible, but he's also pathetic. It's like a competent, if Donald Trump was competent, he'd be the pathetic version of that. If that makes any sense. Because Donald Trump isn't, I wouldn't necessarily say pathetic, but there is something about it. He's definitely not competent. But if he was competent, then, you know, Pierre Poilievre would be the pathetic version of that. Sure, we'll go with that. He's such a whiny little Weasley dweeb. He's just a dweeb. We'll get to it. So there's a right-wing hate group that I don't even know what the comparison would be in the States, called Diagolon, and they're having like some of their protests about the taxes that are going up in Canada, the Axe the Tax protests that are happening, and they are a horrible group. We'll get into it. Anyway, let's start with the article. So from Press Progress, this is the next Prime Minister of Canada. Pierre Dweeb Poilievre meets with far-right extremist group at Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border. Everyone's happy with what you're doing, Pierre tells conspiratorial fringe group camped out on the side of the highway. So recently, this guy has been endorsed by this guy. Yes, Pierre Poilievre has been endorsed by Alex Jones, and, you know, you can't control who endorses you. He has not condemned that endorsement. He has not said anything about it. He's not said, I don't approve of that. Alex Jones is a horrible person. His conspiracy theories about the Sandy Hook kids has cost, you know, at least one person their life because the torment that they were receiving, and he's had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in defamation, and he's like complete conspiracy theory person, and I do not represent people like him. No, he hasn't. He's just totally embraced the endorsement from, well, I wouldn't necessarily he said he's embraced it, but he hasn't acknowledged it one way or the other. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones insists Pierre Poilievre is saying the same things as me, so that would be a red flag. If Alex Jones would be like, you know that Sandy, she's on board with what I'm saying, I would have to delete my channel. Because there was just something really wrong in the Matrix then. InfoWar host credits Pierre Poilievre for validating his conspiracies about globalist agenda. Huh? What was that about the anti-Semitism we were talking about earlier on the rise? Anyway, that's not the article that I wanted to go over. This is the article I wanted to go over. Canada's leader of the official opposition pulled over on the side of the highway Tuesday evening and paid a surprise visit to a group of far-right extremists who have staged protests at the Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border for the last 3 years. So this all started with the trucker convoy. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was seen posing for selfies and giving a pep talk to members of the group, which subscribes to a range of fringe conspiracy and extremes views in live stream videos posted on social media. Now, the thing is that this group is really bad, like really bad, and Pierre never condemned them, and then they joked about sexually assaulting his wife. That was a while ago, and now he's out there being buddy-buddy with them again. Oh. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, The group has been camped out at the border for the last month, purportedly to protest the carbon tax. However, the group is led by the same people who have been protesting the interprovincial border since 2021, originally opposed to the public health orders, the trucker convoy. Polyev can be seen in the live stream video touring the group's campsite, which consists of several vehicles draped in upside-down maple leaves and Fuck Trudeau flags. So the fact that he is around and not... It's just... I'm not all about decorum, but the Fuck Trudeau flags, if you're going to be the leader of the official opposition, you should say, you know what, that's not appropriate. That's not, like, Trudeau, don't like him, not at all. But that is really inappropriate. Same with this outfit. My God, what is that? I can't click on the pitch. This is like a leather vest inside of a jacket with a t-shirt just hanging out. Just... There's that guy on Twitter that always does that thing with male fashion that for some reason is oddly interesting, even though I don't do male fashion, but there's just something about his tweets that are oddly fascinating on how he breaks down, you know, how things should be tailored and stuff like that. I need him to see this and comment on it. I do. This is just like, what is this? Like this, I think even has a collar, whatever. Zip up leather vest thingy. Anyway, Polyev and his security detail entered one trailer where a number of groups members have been sleeping and eating food. The side of the trailer displays signatures of far-right influencers associated with the Freedom Convoy and more recent anti-LGBTQ+ protests. One man named Dean is seen opening the trunk of his car to show Polyev a bundle of blankets and pillows where he sleeps each night. Oh, is that going to be Polyev's new housing strategy? You close the trunk, Polyev asks. How do you close the trunk when you're in there? I just put the seats down. Okay, I don't care about this. Oh, I see. Yes, now he's going to take that to heart, and that's going to be the next housing initiative when he becomes prime minister. You know, if you have a car, you have a house. Dean later asked Polyev if he will pose for photos next to his car draped in Fuck Trudeau flags, and Polyev suggests they stand in front of something else. What is this outfit? I need to see that Twitter guy comment on this. Oh my God, what is running shoes too? Yes, this trunk here, it's probably bigger than some people's apartments. What is this outfit? Oh, is that a hearse in the background too? Polyev office did not respond for questions from Press Progress seeking to clarify how the leader of the opposition ended up at an extremist group's campsite in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick border. Polyev posed for photos in the Borden-Cullerton PEI on Tuesday and has another event scheduled in Port Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia, Wednesday. And this is how he's going to win. Because he desperately is trying to come across as the average guy. I've never seen anyone dressed like this before, let alone somebody who has money. He's a millionaire. Like, again, this guy is a professional politician. He's been in politics his entire life. He got his pension in his early 30s. Like, he's a millionaire. He's a landowner. You know, he's a landlord. But he's playing the populist character, and that's what people want right now. And his dweebness is not enough to overcome the hatred for Justin Trudeau. And yeah, Justin Trudeau is severely unlikable. I don't want the Liberals to lose. The NDP has no chance. Let's face it, doesn't matter who they put in power next time. They have no chance in the next election. Nikki Ashton, Matthew Green, I'm looking at you two. You need to run for leadership. I don't care how, just do it. Either one of them. Amazing leaders. But considering how much worse the Conservative Party is, I don't want them to win, which means the Liberals. If the Liberals want to win, Justin Trudeau needs to step down as leader. And they need to put in somebody other than Chrystia Freeland. Just not her. But because he's going on tour and he's meeting with all these people and stuff, Pierre Poilievre is really coming across to them like he cares when he doesn't. And he's doing all the populist things that this country desperately wants. They desperately want a populist. In a live stream video, Poilievre tells the group he was driving from Prince Edward Island, that's PEIT Americans, to Nova Scotia when he spotted the group on the side of the highway and asked his chauffeur, just the average guy with the chauffeur, to pull over so he could get out and say hello. Bonjour. We were just going down the highway when we heard about you guys in the news, Poilievre said. We saw you, so I told them to pull over and say hello. One of the group's leaders criticized the negative attention the group has been receiving from the media, prompting Poilievre to reassure them they enjoy wide support. I would play this, but the volume is just non-existent. You don't hear anything they're saying in this video. When he's just basically saying, you are good guys. You're good guys. You far right-wing conspiracy theory group who are just the worst. We'll get into them a bit more. Luckily, Rachel Gilmore, amazing journalist here in Canada, has been following this group for years, and she has a couple quick breakdown videos on them that we'll get to. The person Poilievre was speaking was Thomas Everett of Amherst, Nova Scotia, who has been lead organizer for the protests in Nova Scotia. Okay, I don't think we need all of this, because we'll get to it in some of these breakdowns. Well, the group purports to be concerned about the price of carbon and social media postings by Everett. Yeah, I don't think we need this because we'll get into, chemtrails is one of their conspiracy theories. Like, come on. The group also appears to endorse more extreme far-right views. One of the live stream images show Poilievre standing next to the symbol of the Diagolon, an online community revolving around a group of far-right extremists influences the Emergency Act inquiry noted law enforcement viewed as potentially dangerous organization. Like, these aren't just right-wing organizations. They're borderline terrorist groups that he is getting all cozy with. In 2022, Poilievre sparked controversy after ignoring calls to disavow the support of the online extremist community when he himself took a photo with one of the lead influencers of Diagolon, an individual flagged as a threat by national security officials in a counterterrorism report. Yeah, and again, he's going out to these people, saying he agrees with them and that they're the good guys. A month later, RCMP launched a criminal investigation after the same influence later threatened to sexually assault Poilievre's wife. Like, you remember that photo of Ted Cruz phone banking for Donald Trump after Donald Trump said his wife was ugly? And we all thought that was sad and pathetic. Here he is coming out of a trailer of Diagolon, that's the symbol there, a group who threatened to sexually assault his wife. And he's cozying up with them. Says Sebastian, the Conservative leader spokesperson, did not respond to questions from Press Progress inquiring why Poilievre would associate with people who endorse this group. Okay, and then and this is from David Moskrop on Twitter. I feel like Pierre hanging with these bozos in front of Diagolon symbol, looking like a strung out Dollarama Neo from Matrix, should be raising a lot of concerns, and should be. I also don't think that Polyev has security clearance yet either. That hasn't been granted to him. So let's go to this video here. So follow-up here speaks about the Great Canadian Tax Revolt and tells protesters camping out on the side of the road to keep it up. So this borderline terrorist group, just keep up the good work.
You guys get a shower? You guys get a shower?
Yeah, a big shower.
Yeah. This is where I sleep.
I think you're getting a tan, bro. You think getting a tan?
You are getting a tan.
Yeah, man.
You're like that guy
Who is this? I got it. Me. Pierre Polyev. Me. Is it? You?
Yeah, we're gonna axe the tax. A good old-fashioned Canadian tax revolt.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
Right on, guys.
Right on.
Keep it.
How can anyone take him seriously when he's dressed like this? Does this give you any sense of confidence in his abilities as a leader? This? You look at this and think, yeah, that's the man to take care of things. With his t-shirt hanging out, trying to do a nice masculine manly pose. Got the fist all clasped. Yeah, pulling
Put up and let's bring it home.
Conservative leader Pierre Polyev. So here is Rachel Gilmore, who I was talking about earlier. She has done amazing work on this, just absolutely amazing work. And she is able to sum this up in a way, again, I envy her so much that she can do this just so quickly and concisely and stuff, because like I've been rambling for almost 3 hours and I'm still not done. But she makes these quick videos that are just packed with information. And, you know, she has been threatened. Her life has basically been put in danger because she has been reporting on this group. And then you have a lot of other media sources now picking up on it, using her work without crediting her. So I'm giving her all the credit she deserves. She deserves so much more credit than she's getting. Please go follow her work. She is just absolutely fantastic. So she says, conservative leader Pierre Polyev appears to be pandering to extremists and their pals. This time it's darker and more embarrassing than his previous flirtation with the fringe. As someone who has been covering this issue for years, let me break it down exactly why.
Conservative leader Pierre Polyev just visited a Freedom Convoy-style encampment in Nova Scotia, where he told the group, quote, "Everyone's happy with what you're doing," and went inside an RV that has a diagolon flag drawn on the side. Yes, this diagolon. Here's what's going on. Yesterday, Polyev showed up in a live stream from a group that's been protesting at the Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border since 2021, according to Luc Lebrun of Press Progress. First, they were opposing public health orders, but like many other members of the Freedom Convoy movement have since ballooned into protesting the carbon tax as well as a variety of other conspiratorial grievances. Thanks to the cookie lady on Twitter who first caught this, I got my hands on this live stream. Polyev basically just glad hands, speaks in slogans, and takes some pictures. Very normal, human pictures. Here's a key moment from that live stream. He also goes into this RV where this is painted on the side. This is the flag representing Diagolon, and it's wild to see Polyev standing so close to it because of what these dudes stand for, which I've reported on at length. But includes them live streaming themselves laughing at people in India being brutally killed by trains.
Make sure you clip this one so you can watch me laugh at Indians getting run over by fucking trains.
Because I reported on this, they said they would laugh if I was sexually assaulted to death.
If you got gang raped to death by Indian migrants in the street, I would laugh. I wouldn't even stop them.
They've done interviews with literal neo-Nazis and even threatened to assault Pierre Polyev's wife. Despite that, Polyev is pandering to folks who apparently travel in these same circles, or at least did at one.
The fact that any politician in this country can get away rubbing shoulders with these people is outrageous. There should be so much condemnation from his own party, from the Liberals, from the NDP, like everyone needs to be speaking out against this. Like if the National Terrorist Watch people are looking at Diagolon like, we're concerned about them. And he's cozying up to them. Huge red flags. You just take the Canada flag and you see where that white is. You use the fill option on Photoshop and you click fill with red. And then that's kind of the flag that should be flying above him right now.
One point, if this truck is any indication. Even with these efforts, the Diagolon dudes don't like Polyev. They're memeing and laughing at him right now. A little advice, Polyev? They're not going to pick you. At least not right now. More on that in a sec. I reached out to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, who told me Polyev's support for this encampment is embarrassing and alarming. And he should answer for this. As for Polyev, his team did not reply to my request for comment, but sent this to CBC.
As vocal opponents of Justin Trudeau's pushing carbon tax, which has driven up the cost of groceries, gas, heating, he made a brief impromptu stop, he said. If Justin Trudeau is concerned about extremism, he should look at parades on Canadian streets openly celebrating Hamas' slaughter of Jews on October 7th. That's the statement.
And while Diagolon is currently distancing themselves from Polyev, who is terrible for their anti-establishment street cred, it's worth re-upping this clip I found in 2022 in which Diagolon discuss using Polyev to forward their agenda.
You can make him do things because he's a weasel.
So the group is cozying up to is blatantly obviously saying, we are using you as a puppet. Now go bend over so we can shove our hands up your ass and play you around. Like, it's just, wow. The amount of self-degradation that it would take to be seen with them, to pander for some far-right votes. Like, is he trying to stir up a revolt here? Like, try to get the same rabid base that, Trump has in the States where, there's threats that should he lose or should he win even, that there's going to be violence? Like, is that what Pierre is after? To have, like, unofficial armies or militias ready to serve at his whim? Like, this is just so disgusting. He would let himself be used like this. He is so pathetic. Like, I don't know how much more pathetic you can get than him. And he still stands a chance, a good chance. In fact, he probably will be the next prime minister of this country. I feel like I'm losing my mind.
That's what's kind of interesting about it.
Yep.
So this is where we're at, Canada. What do you think of all this? Conservative leader...
Oh. So this is from Socialist Anti-Fascist Fox on Twitter. And just some more of this. So their fascism is fast becoming undeniable. People are waking up slowly. The comfortable are becoming less so. The old world is dying. The new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. If I must become one to create the world without them, I gladly accept. That reminds me of the monologue in Star Wars, not Star Wars, Andor, Star Wars, Andor. The monologue the guy gave in the one episode, just so powerful about, how he has to use the tools of the oppressors in order to fight back, and how that, he had to sacrifice his soul in order to fight this tyranny. And it's like, yeah, but here's some of the new video of Polyev visits to the fringy far-right group's campsite with better audio quality. At one point, a protester claims the RCMP are giving them a lot of support, to which Polyev replies by validating this idea. They're all on side. We've seen plenty of times when law enforcement tends to be on side with right-wing agendas, whether it's the Freedom Convoy or, protecting their own after they murder people and things of that sort. You know, they never seem to have a problem with the anti-vaxxer marches, but the pro-Palestinian marches, they had problems with. And to have him also acknowledge, it's like the RCMP, law enforcement, shouldn't be on a side. They should just be enforcing the law equally across the board, no matter who you are, which of course is not the case and never has been the case. But, you know, in an idealized world, that's what law enforcement would be. But since that isn't going to happen, we just need to get rid of it all. Just dismantle, defund, dismantle, and reinvent. So let's see what this dweeb has to say.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of support, even from the police. They see us, they drive by, they wave and smile.
they're all on
and
side.
yeah, honestly,
The cops are good folks.
it's been amazing, really. Yeah, I've been getting.
Yeah, cops are good folks. We went over a story about good folk cops earlier. So this is another video from Rachel Gilmore. I haven't actually seen it yet because this popped into my feed right before I started, but it sounds important. So, the encampment Pierre Poilievre visited had closer ties to Diagolon than anyone had previously reported. I've got the proof, so it might be time to walk back some op-eds and hot takes. Here's what's going on.
Do I ever have an update for you? 2 days ago, Pierre Poilievre visited a Freedom Convoy-style encampment, where, as I reported in yesterday's video, he glad-handed people flying F. Trudeau flags and told them everyone is happy with what they're doing. He also hung out in an RV that had a Diagolon flag drawn on the side. You know, the far-right extremists I've reported on at length, including them laughing on a live stream at people in India being brutally killed by trains, interviewing actual neo-Nazis, and much, much more. Anyways, in the 24 hours since, a lot of people have tried to diminish this, saying things like, hey, it's just a whittle squibble.
National Post, very much a right-wing rag. It's just, they're so right-wing on the National Post, it's ridiculous that they're a national paper. Just absolutely. They should not be a legit media source at this point with all the Zionist, homophobic, transphobic rhetoric that they put out there. It's, yeah.
Who cares? But I did a little more digging, and it looks like the ties between Diagolon and the merry little gathering Poilievre visited go deeper than that scribble. Take, for example, this woman who was live streaming and posting from the encampment within the last handful of days. This is her previous cover photo. I'm sorry, what does that say on her hoodie? Oh, and I recognize that guy. That's Jeremy Mackenzie, the leader of Diagolon. She liked this photo so much, she posted it multiple times. Oh, and here, right here, in this post where the guy who filmed Poilievre on site is making it very clear they have nothing to do with Diagolon, he tagged his buddy Sam. This Sam, who said, Pierre Poilievre, thanks for stopping by my trailer, and clarifies he does not enjoy the Diagolon Leaders podcast, the one he knew by name. But Sam, did you forget you posted this? There's that Diagolon hoodie again. And what's that caption? Oh, it's you tagging Jeremy Mackenzie saying this person is keeping you fed and ready for action. Once again, here is that same guy live streaming from that border site. So did Poilievre know he was visiting an encampment with ties to Diagolon? Not necessarily, no. But even though...
You know, that's the thing. You might not know that the table that you just went and sat down on is full of Nazis, but as soon as you see them, you know, flip over the plate and you see the swastika, you should probably leave. I guarantee you Pierre Poilievre knows what the Diagolon flag looks like. And to see it then still walk into the RV? Like, it's okay to stop by a group of protesters and be like, oh yeah, axe attacks. Okay, yeah, that seems, you know, something that he can get behind. But then as soon as they start with this other bullshit, he needs to walk away. Or else it's basically an endorsement.
Diagolon hate Poilievre. Its leader threatened to assault Poilievre's wife, and they mock him regularly. He's still pandering to folks who travel in the same circles. And I just gave you even more proof of that. So feel free to correct your op-eds and hot takes about this little scribble. What do you think of all this?
I think Pierre Poilievre is a dweeb. A pathetic dweeb. Who's most likely going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. I am begging the Liberal Party to kick Justin Trudeau out of leadership and put somebody else there, just not Christian Freeland. I don't want the Liberals to win. I don't want the Conservatives to win. But the NDP, they're so far from any potential of winning. It's like I'm choosing the least worst option. Anyway, let's check the sandbox and I'll get on to that horror story I was telling you about. It's interesting. And then we'll see where we are, and then we might do a nice little like a video or picture stream where we just take a deep breath. It's just this what I'm about to show you guys on video. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal. Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot, CIJA is Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. I scrolled up too far, but I caught that, but thank you. My dogs are goth. It's laughing at something I said, but not letting me know what it is. I don't know. It's Sandy's tribute to Sammy? Well, I tweeted out earlier, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but behind Matt Leck in the Majority Report, when they show the video, when you see him in the background, you can see the drawing that I did of Sam Cedar, and it's like, so I tweeted that out. That tweet has actually got a lot of engagement for one of my tweets, which generally don't get any. Got over like 100 likes on it. But it's just nice to know that a part of me is always in the Majority Report studio. It's neat. It's nice. It's nice to see that there. Nice to see them do some fan service, I guess. Schmegli, Captain Vancouver Canuck. Yeah. Zero PE saying complaining the anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. That's the thing that you should not be conflating. Let's see. You know, the next stream that I do, I am still going to call you Shamigli because that's how I read it when I see it. That's the thing. I have a hard time reading out loud a lot of words because English is just so messed up. That's why I have a lot of troubles with names in particular, because names, it depends on what culture they're from too, on how you pronounce a lot of things. And so the letters are pretty much irrelevant in a lot of English. Like the letters are just there, but they're irrelevant to actually how you say the word. It's just funny, I used to tutor English to refugees. Well, basic English is easy enough. Let's see. People talking about their 23andMe results. I would really love to do that. I really would. I'd be very interested to find out what my mix is exactly. I just know for certain Hungarian last name. But I think all my grandparents were born in Canada, and it's just been a mix since. Like, I would never refer to myself as Hungarian because I know nothing of it. And of the food that I've had, I actually did not like. Monope looks like a cool priest. Schmegli. I bet that car stinks so bad. Yeah. FG, JFC, I didn't realize those freedom truckers still had a camp on the border. There's still regularly freedom convoy protests, parades going on all the time across the country. They definitely did not stop. There just hasn't been one as big since, but there's little protests still all over the place and gatherings every now and then. They definitely have not gone away. Soul Life, where is SK in Canada? I get rail traffic from SK. I'm the state box on the billing. I know PQ. SK probably means Saskatchewan. So you have Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. So it's in the middle of Alberta and Manitoba. Its capital is Regina. Let's see. Just trying to find something I know the context of that isn't a back and forth between people. FG, I knew they were hateful shitheads, but I didn't realize how openly broadcasted just how hateful. Very scary group. Zero PE, that speech by Luthen on Andor gave me serious George Jackson vibes. Don't know George Jackson, but it is Luthen who gave that speech on Andor and just did an incredible job with that monologue. I should rewatch Andor. Andor is so good and relevant. And then after you watch Andor, like the series, so if you ever binge watch Andor again, you then have to follow it up by Jesse's Gender's breakdown of it on YouTube. She does a fantastic job. Left Looney Tunes, this will not be another 5-hour show. We got like one more kind of, it's interesting. I find it interesting. We don't need volume for this. So let's switch over here. This one. There we go. So this was in London, Ontario, just a few days ago. And that is a train on fire going through London, Ontario. And London, Ontario is a larger city in Ontario. Look at that. Horror. Just going through the city like that. Like, could you imagine driving by and seeing that? Like, just... You're just on your day and you look over and here's this train on fire and just moving along. Like, I can't, like, this is like through the downtown of London. Like, not even just on the outskirts, but like cuts right through the city. So it's carrying wood and railroad ties that went up in flames on last Sunday. Just, wow. Yeah, multiple 911 calls came from residents, obviously. Luckily, like, it didn't catch on any buildings or anything. Like, nobody was injured with this, thankfully. But this is like horror movie stuff, and I'm going to make it a lot worse for everyone in just a moment. Just... Like, there's something in a movie that I'm trying to remember where I've seen something like this, where it's just like this thing on fire coming towards you. And it's like an apocalyptic type movie. And that's like, oh my God. Could you imagine just being at the rail cross and seeing that? Wow. Like you would think the end of the world is coming. And there is something where I'm just picturing like this train on fire, apocalyptic type movie. Wow. This is just like, you would think like, okay, are they shooting a movie or something? Or you would like then have to like run back into your car and turn on the radio and be like, okay, is the end of the world happening? Because that's just the visualization that you get of this moving train on fire. Yeah, so no injuries were reported, and firefighters said there was no dangerous goods aboard. Part of why this is going to be horror in just a moment. Imagine if there was dangerous goods going through that city on fire. A very large, like this is a large Canadian city, as in like over 100,000 people. The fire department said the railway company was investigating the cause of the fire. Damage is pegged at 25,000 for the rail cars and 10,000 to a holding building in London. Okay. So why I said this is nightmare fuel. So yeah, just imagine for one instance that there were dangerous goods on that going through a heavily populated city. But here's the nightmare scenario that instantly came to my mind. Because that train went on for a while. Well, on fire. Like we saw several different shots. It went quite the distance, and I think it only stopped because it probably got some radio calls in after enough people called 911, you know, saying, hey, your train's on fire. And so then they probably waited till they could get to like a clearing where the fire department could come in. But to be moving that through a city that far on fire like that, like not just one car, but all of them on fire like that for so long. Here's the nightmare scenario. We have a lot of rail lines out in the middle of nowhere, but not quite the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the boreal forest. Very big wooded forest through large parts of Canada. It's lots and lots of trees that these trains go through. And wildfire season is becoming worse and worse every year. It was really bad last year. And part of the reason why we have such a hard time fighting fires here in Canada is how remote these areas are. Because you can't just like hook up a hose. Like you have to transport people, equipment, everything into these very remote areas in order to try to fight these fires. If a train was on fire like that, going through the forest during a dry spell, like when you're conductor, I don't think you're looking back too often if the train is running normally and you're not feeling any difference. So if the cars are on fire on the top, you're not necessarily going to feel anything. There's no smoke coming into you. You're looking forward because you're trying to, how long would they travel before they noticed that they were on fire? And if they're doing this during the dry season in a wooded area, that would ignite all the trees for kilometers and kilometers. So you would have a forest fire start unlike anything else we have seen before. Like it would just be the most monstrous forest fire imaginable if that were to happen. And the fact that it could be on fire for so long while going through a city, it is incredible. But with nobody around to tell them that they're on fire, how long do you think they would go? Oh my God. It'd be a forest fire unlike anything else this world has seen. It is like when climate change comes, little accidents like that. So there you go for a nightmare scenario here in Canada. wow, that's all I could think of when I saw that was like if it had gone through a wooded area that was dried out, and how long they would have gone before they noticed, before anything happened. Because if there's no residential area nearby and they're not looking in the rear view mirror, and then even if they did, like that's the thing, like even if they did, okay, we're on fire, let's stop. Again, they're in the middle of nowhere. Like there's no way that they could fight it there. Like maybe the most they could do is maybe find a bridge that they could go over so they're at least not right next to trees, but or go into a tunnel and then block off the edges so that you suffocate the fire. Just wow, that's all I could think of when I saw that. It was just what that would do to cause a forest fire. And it's just like, yeah, nightmare fuel, nightmare fuel. Okay, let's check the sandbox. Do people need to unwind a little bit? Do you want to see some nice pretty pictures from one of the Twitter accounts I follow? Or I can just start wrapping things up. So life, LOL, there's someone on Lance's chat that complained about the chat is full of side conversations and useless. Then they blocked everyone having conversations. They rage quit. I'm all for engagement in the sandbox and people talking and having side conversations. Not a problem. It's just when I'm trying to single out things to say, it's a little bit of a it can become a bit tricky. But you know, I like building community, so I'm quite glad people are talking amongst themselves while I'm putting in all this hard work that you're not paying attention to. Zero PE, George Jackson is a Black Panther that wrote a book in prison saying pretty much what Lutheran said. He died fighting corrupt prison guards trying to protect other prisoners. Monope, do you all think families are worse now, or that we can all just talk about how awful families more openly now, or both? I think there's a lot of social pressure removed from us to force people to stay in families, because before it used to be, you know, domestic abuse, child abuse, all that sort of stuff was kind of brushed under the rug and just kind of accepted. There's a lot less of that now, and people are speaking out, and it's becoming harder to hide. And a lot of people have finally come to the understanding that they don't need to stay in toxic environments if they, you know, if they have other options. Like this idea that family before anything else is really starting to wear on a lot of people. That's how I got estranged from the vast majority of my family. I think a lot of people are just realizing there's nothing saying you have to tolerate a toxic family. And if it's healthier for you to not be in that family, then don't be in that family. And there's more social safety nets and online, actually social media online, so you can find other communities, connect that way. And then a lot of people just learning that, you know, what was happening in their family isn't normal helps a lot for them to break out of that as well. So I would say it's more that it's just more open now, more open and people talking about it. It was probably even worse before, a lot worse. Zero PE, a Hell Train movie sounds interesting. Yeah, you have Ghost Rider, you know, maybe Ghost Rider version 5 or something. So Life O'Rail has hot boxes that detect heat. It's to see if axle is struck due to stuck brake or defective axle. It probably detected the hot car with 208 hot axles, so dispatch notified them. Well, the problem is that the fire was on the top, so it won't necessarily heat up the axle until it's like burned down. They were way too spread out. They were saying if there was more hot boxes, Palestine could have been avoided. Oh, so you're talking about the explosion that happened in Palestine in the United States, that if there was more of these detectors, that could have been avoided. East Palestine, that's what it was. Grand Theft Autobot. Well, I, for one, am able to pay attention to both mostly. Okay, yeah, let's start wrapping things up. Oh, here, I won't go through a full photo thing, and I haven't transferred these onto my computer yet, but a little something nice before we completely wind down. So again, something I just always makes my heart sing is the fact that Frodo, my cat, nearly died last year. He got really sick and he came around. And a lot of that was because of the help of wonderful people online helping out with his vet bills. But I've never had a cat actually come back from an illness like that. And he's still eating. He's super skinny, and I can feel on his stomach that there is definitely a growth inside of him. And he still has kidney disease, so he's not going to get to be a year older. But one thing I was just really, really hoping was that he could connect with his brothers, because he really wanted siblings for the longest time. And I was really hoping that he could connect with his brothers and enjoy some time with them before he passes on. Check that out. Oh. Lanier will go up and headbutt him and mush into him, and he play fights with both of them, and it's just the absolute sweetest thing. And Lanier and Abernathy also get along really sweetly. So cute. They are the cutest things. Focus. Focus. There we go. That's them cuddling on a couch. And then I snapped this one today of them cuddling. Enjoying the sunlight cuddle. But yeah, I can't thank people enough for their support and helping me with Frodo. Just being able to give him that time with his siblings is just, it helps me. You know, it means the world to me to be able to give that to him when that cat has given me so much in my life. To see him just be able to, you know, get along with his siblings. And I know he doesn't have much longer left, but like, it's not even that he came back from his illness and he has a decent quality of life. He seems to have a good quality of life. Like, he can still jump up on the back of the couch and run around and play. And in the evenings when I use the toys, like the teasers and stuff, he's playing with them. Like, they're all swatting at it together. And, you know, because when Tulip, when she was getting near the end of her life, it was as long as I felt she still had a decent quality, like she could still get around, eating, wanting cuddles and stuff. I didn't have it in me to put her down. Like as long as she still had that, even though I wouldn't say her quality was the greatest, it was decent life, you know. She still seemed to want to be here. But, you know, she did have a lot of mobility issues, had gone blind and deaf and stuff, but she still wanted pets and was responsive to that and all that sort of stuff. But with Frodo, no mobility issues, still seeing, hearing at his age, because he's probably like 17 now. After being so close to death, I just, he is my baby. So again, it might be a while before I start doing regular live streams. I am doing a live stream this Tuesday with the letter hack, just looking to have some fun. Maybe not be so politic heavy. So over the next while, like unless there's a whole bunch of Canadian news that breaks like this again, and I just feel this overwhelming drive to get on here and rage about it with you guys, I might be holding off for a while because the book I'm working on is the only thing on my brain. Like I need to do whatever it takes. I need to get it done now. And I'm still in the process of editing it yet again. It has undergone at least a dozen edits. But as I'm reading through it, I've caught some other things. And basically after a year of not reading it because it was potentially going to go through that publisher, there were a couple changes that I thought, oh, actually I should change that. And then as I got reading it, I'm like, oh, I need to clean up the language. And then there's just some silly things like dialogue writing in a book is really difficult because how do you indicate who's talking, like who's starting the conversation and who's speaking at any given time without it looking like a movie script, you know, person's name, words and stuff like that. So that can become tricky, and it's just so trying to figure out the proper dialogue format and where to add a comma versus a period and stuff can be tricky. And then I realized as I was reading it out loud, there were way too many hads, the word had, H-A-D. Like, so sometimes you can have a sentence like, then they had taken the dog out for a walk before they went out to dinner versus they took the dog out before they went out to dinner. Which is the proper sentence? They both say the same thing, but how often do you add the word had? So they had talked about that before their break versus they talked about that before their break. And so I reduced it by about 100 ads. Like it's those little things. And then it's like, oh, I'm using the word happening too much. So instead of finding an interesting way of saying it, it's like, oh, this character filled them in on what was happening. And it's like, no, I've used that word way too much. And so it's trying to find good ways of changing it so that it becomes more descriptive and interesting to read. It's a long book. It's a meaty sized novel. So for those who weren't here at the beginning, it is it's a Word document right now. Standard font, standard margins, single spacing. It's 175 pages. It's just over 98,000 words right now. And as I'm editing it, I'm reading it out loud. My voice was shot for a couple days because I'm literally sitting at my computer till my eyeballs hurt. I have never been this hyper-focused on anything else before in my life, where it's like for hours and hours, that's the only thing I can do, and you have no idea how much it's killing me not being able to do it right now. Because I'm going to be out tomorrow, so I won't be able to work on it tomorrow. I need to get it done. And that's the only thing I can focus on. So I have that to do, but I have my last live stream and this live stream that I'm going to be chopping up and putting into segments. So that will take a bit of time as well. When I do post videos, like clips of these live streams, please go watch them. Just do it can be a courtesy watch where you just click mute, watch something else on a different tab. There's a few videos that I'm still trying to get over 100 views. If you can go and check those out, and just, again, every day, if you can do that, it would help me out, because I'm doing it like twice a day, and each one counts as a new view. And there's quite a few of my shorts. The shorts, you know, they're either like won't break 100 or get over 500 views, one way or the other. So if you could just do courtesy views of those, that would be great to help keep things active in the algorithm. And then basically, once I get that done, I also want to do the script that I've been planning on working on with about Anna Kasparian that I had in mind. So I have to get all of that done before I start doing regular live streams again. So I have to get my book published, get these all chopped up, and do that video essay that I have in mind before I get back to doing regular live streams. Doesn't mean there won't be any, because like I said, I wasn't planning on doing one tonight, but the Canadian news, come on. I had to cover that. And Letter Hack will be on. I'm more than happy to go on other people's shows in between, so I just want to work on my book. Like, you have no idea how hard, like, I'm looking at the clock now, it's like I can't start working on it now. I usually have to pry myself away from the computer at 9 o'clock to get myself away from it. Because yeah, I need to have my brain look at other things other than the screen during the day. But yeah, it's all these little things about writing that I'm trying to figure out. But the thing is that there is something about this book, and I can feel it. This book it's big. Like, it's there. If enough of the right people see it, this book will be amazing. Because I say this with the same level of, I look at my art and I know my art is good. And I know it's above and beyond good compared to what most people can do. And I say this with that same understanding that this book is good. And it's above and beyond what most people can do. And there's a lot of messages in it and stuff. However, just like my art, it doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Because I still haven't done a paid commission for anyone other than my mom. I could really use some paid commissions right now. Because at this point, I'm going to have to pay to get somebody to do the cover art for my book. Because that's not a type of art I can do. Because you have to take into account what sells a book, you know. It's the same, like, I'm great in Photoshop. My thumbnails suck ass. I know that. I know, because I don't know how to make a good thumbnail. But I'm great in Photoshop. It doesn't mean I'm going to make a good thumbnail. So I can be great in art. It doesn't mean I'm going to make a good book cover. Plus, there's certain requirements and stuff for it. So it's best just to get somebody to do it. I found somebody. Hopefully she'll be able to do the book cover for me. But even, I'm going to be publishing independently at this time, but even then it's going to cost me money, depending on the type of publisher that it does the distribution and things of that sort. Or even, like, I'll have to bulk buy my book myself to have hard copies to sell at events. And at that point, I'm basically just recovering the cost that I did to get them in the first place. It's not really money that I'm making above and beyond, but yeah, it's complicated. So any help? let's do this. Yeah, any help with my Patreon account? Very much appreciate it. And I understand a lot of people in this community don't have the money to spare, and I don't want people to struggle. So if you help by sharing my content, getting other people to watch my channel, getting more subscribers here, because the more people who see my stuff, I might get more ad revenue because my channel is monetized. And for some unknown reason, despite all the stuff I talk about, very few of my videos get demonetized. So, you know, if I have a couple hit videos, that could bring me in $100 or $2. If I got like thousands and thousands of views on a video or something like that. So any help increasing the popularity of my channel would help, just with the finances. But people who can sign up to become a patron, because I don't want to have to rely on YouTube for monetization, because they can take that away at any moment without any warning. Also, I have my Amazon wish list. Anything from there helps. A lot of it is just stuff that would be nice. I might start putting back on things that I need, like cat litter, cat food, because if somebody else gets that for me, then that's just one less thing that I have to get with my own cash, which again would help. But a thank you again to the person who got me the new ring light and the toaster oven, because Abernathy likes the cord to my other ring light just way too much, and it got repaired like 3 times, and I think that ring light just had enough. But this one also came on its own stand, which is handy, and I need to remember when I unplug it to curl it up and coil it up and make sure it's out of his reach. Even though he's not allowed in here when I'm not in here, but that cat is a ninja and will sneak in and chew it through it while I'm sitting right in front of it. So super thank you to the person who did that. And the toaster oven will actually help save me money on hydro, because I don't eat large portions and it's just ridiculous to have to cook that in an oven and have the oven heat up for it. So, but I can't wait till I'm done editing this book, because like I said, it's the only thing I've been able to focus on. My place is a disaster. Wow, do I ever need to clean? The only chore I've stayed on top of is the cat litter, because that one you kind of have to. But I need to do a thorough cleaning of my place after this too, because I've just been, again, so focused on that book. It is ridiculous how much I'm even talking about it right now is making me want to switch over to it as soon as I'm done this. And I know I can't, because I'm just hitting a big section that as soon as I get into it, I'm going to have to go through. I won't be able to stop. And I can't have my brain wired on that this close to bedtime. But it's just super annoying, because I also know I won't be able to work on it tomorrow. So Sunday, that's all I'm going to do. And then next week, I'm going to try to call into the Majority Report to answer the call. I heard the call. They said on the show, ask a Canadian. I heard it. It's like the Canada signal going out in the air, pretty much. So I'm going to try to call in to answer that question. I think that's it. I think that's it. So there will not be a Sunday show, but Tuesday will be a special show with the Letter Hack coming on. And I have other people that I've been trying to get on, so if they come on, so it's not like there will be no live streams over the next little while, just no regular live streams over the next while. Oh, right. Also, another way you can help out is I have a PayPal link in the description box below, or you can send an e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com, and that money can help go towards the ongoing vet costs for Frodo to keep him healthy as long as possible and enjoy his relationship with his brothers and me. I wake up and I get to spoon him first thing in the morning, and you have no idea how much I need that. It just makes waking up so much easier. And going to sleep, I get to spoon him right before I go to sleep too, and he makes my life manageable in ways when my mind is going crazy. So any help would be greatly appreciated. But again, I don't want people sacrificing things that you need to help me out. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. I've made it through so much already. I'll find a way. Frodo was right there. He just, I almost had him for you guys. He was right there. Frodo, come on back. They want to see you. Frodo, baby, come on. He just walked under the chair and went out. Oh, this close to getting able to see Frodo. Schmegly says, when I win the lottery, I'll send you a $100 super chat once I can afford lottery tickets. Well, thank you, but I prefer that through PayPal or e-transfer. PayPal takes a lot less than the commission from YouTube. And if you're Canadian and you do an e-transfer, they take nothing. I appreciate it. I do. It's one of those things, if I ever luck out and get lots of money, it's like, okay, I'm going to be the mirror dimension, what is it, the Mercer Brothers or something like that? And be like, I'll be the actual George Soros funding all the leftist content creators. Yeah, so thank you to all the mods. Thank you to everyone coming out. I really appreciate it. I miss you guys. I do enjoy doing these live streams, so it's a struggle staying away from them, but this book is eating my brain. I need to get this book done. Okay. Oh, 0PE. Thank you. I'll see it after the stream. Thank you. I appreciate what you just did. That's it. Oh, did I thank the mods? It gets to the time of night I'm doing all this thanking. I don't remember who I thanked, but thank you to the mods for keeping the sandbox clean of turds. Anyway. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.